I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the regular council meeting of May 20th, 2024. And may we all rise for a pledge of allegiance by Councilman Sakala. Or prayer.
I just want to take a moment and have everybody silently reflect on sort of the end of the year and the summer coming up, and their thoughts about, I guess, the town and the town we love. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And may we have roll call, please?
Councilor Sakala.
Here.
Councilor Crisati.
Here.
Councilor Finger.
Here.
Councilor Hendrickson.
Here.
Councilor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Nasuda.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pisner. Here. Councilor Santinella.
Here.
And Councilor Ungary.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
Thank you, Sheila. In the event of a fire and emergency, there are two means of exiting the council chambers. Exit out the rear doors and walk a safe distance away from the building, or exit through the side doors, go down one flight of stairs, and out the rear doors, also a safe distance away from the building. So we will move on to the minutes of the preceding meetings, the special meeting of May 6, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Moving on to the regular meeting of May 6, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Special meeting of May 8th, 2024.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? And the public hearing and safety, or special meeting of May 13th, 2024.
So moved.
Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? One abstention, two abstentions. And then the special meeting of May 13th, 2024.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Questions, comments, or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We have one abstention. Thank you. And now we're going to move on to special guests. And I'd like to introduce Charlotte Riley and Tina LeBlanc from the Board of Education. Come on up. Welcome. So, what can we do for you?
Okay. It's on. We're good? Okay. I turned the button on. We're good. All right. Well, thanks for having us tonight. I was told you want to know how we got to this point, what have we done so far, and how to move ahead in the future. I'm going to give the facts and explain it all now. I gave the Cliff Notes version of this at the Board of Ed meeting last week. I just want to mention, before I begin, I personally have nothing to gain or lose here. All of this I walked into it. And I'm attempting to make this right so the district can recover and move ahead with the least amount of difficulty as possible. So how do we get here? In February of 2022, for the 2023-24 school year, the Board of Ed was told that we were designated as an Alliance District, and we should expect $1.4 million. The superintendent told the town manager that we would be getting a $1.4 million carve-out of the ECS money. We set a budget based upon this information. In the budget year of 2022-23, the Board of Ed needed a 2.31% increase to maintain services. Based on the information we had when developing that budget, 2% would come from the Alliance carve-out, and the town council would cover the rest. The town budgeted to reduce their revenue to reflect the Alliance carve-out. After the budget was passed by the town council, the Board of Ed was notified by the state that we were not getting the Alliance carve-out, and therefore, we only received the 1.62% increase from the town. Again, the Board of Ed budgeted for a 2.31% increase. When the state told us we were not getting the Alliance carve-out, they then told the Board of Ed, as a consolation prize, that we were eligible to get reimbursed for capital projects. Therefore, the Board of Ed paid for $1.7 million of projects, 3 of them in total, the Barnard parking lot and 2 Enfield High athletic repairs, with the expectation that the state would reimburse us through the Bonded Alliance Money Fund. We were given the application and told this is the paperwork to apply for the grant that they told us about, which the state usually doesn't follow up like that. They usually just say, here you go, figure it out. But they followed up with us to make sure that we applied for it. In July of 2022, the state informed the Board of Ed that we were denied this Construction Alliance grant because we had no Tier 4 or 5 schools in the district. Therefore, the Board of Ed was short $1.4 million of Alliance grant carve-out and $1.7 million in town projects to start the 2022-23 school year. We covered these losses using Hartford Choice money that we were allowed to carry over, contingency funds, a potential 2% carryover, and leftover COVID money. In the fall of 2022, the Board of Ed was told from state leaders that they were going to rectify the Alliance mistake and send the Board of Ed surplus funds from the state because of the mistake. In the fall and early winter of 2022 and 23, the board was preparing the budget for the 23-24 school year. In January of 2023, it was noticed while preparing that year's budget that we had received from the state $2.5 million labeled Board of Education surplus. This logically was assumed that this was the surplus money that was promised to rectify the loss of Alliance money. That money appeared in the board account on December 9th, 2022. During the budget process for fiscal year 23-24, the board and the town had to decide how to budget the ECS calculation for this fiscal year. Because of all the reassurances that the Alliance money would be rectified, the town and board budgeted with the assumption that the board would be receiving the Alliance money carve-out of $1.4 million. The Board of Ed needed a 3.96% increase for the 23-24 school year. Once again, the town reduced their ECS revenue by the $1.4 million Alliance number. The town appropriated a 3.62 budget increase to the Board of Ed with the understanding that 2% would come from the ECS Alliance grant carve-out and 1.6 would come from the town. All information from the state indicated that the Board of Ed would be getting this Alliance carve-out during the entire budget process. If you were paying attention back in January of 23, there was a House Bill number 5003 that was supposed to pass, and basically all was to be rectified. It was to change the ECS formula and fully fund magnet schools so we wouldn't even have to pay the tuition to them as other items on that House bill. The town council adopted a budget with the difference of the Alliance money and a 3.62% increase. After the town adopted the budget, the Board of Ed was notified that the Alliance carve-out was once again taken out of the state budget for Enfield. This resulted in the Board of Ed being short $1.4 million before our year even began. This started the shortfall, coupled with unprecedented increases in special education costs. The Board of Ed at that point realized we needed to tap into that $2.5 million surplus money to cover the Alliance shortfall and the drastic increases in special education. Also, we had no contingency money and COVID money left due to the fact that we needed to cover the previous year's shortfall. During this time, the Board of Ed discovered that this surplus money of $2.5 million was no longer in our account. To this day, we do not have a proper explanation to why it was taken or where it is located. At the same time, the Board of Ed started to get word that the excess cost grant was going to be shorted about $600,000. from 91% down to 67%, which we had budgeted the 91%, which was promised from the state. Once the Board of Ed reconciled the current year's special education costs, the Board of Ed came to the realization that they were going to be short in this fiscal year of approximately $4 million. To close this gap, the Board of Ed is using all their choice money, roughly $910,000, from fiscal year 22-23 to reduce the deficit. As of May 10th, the additional special education cost for this fiscal year is roughly $1.8 million that we did not have in the budget. These are kids that moved into the district, into Enfield, and now they're our own special ed kids. Once the board discovered there was no remedy to cover this on their own, the leaders at the state and the town were notified. Recently, Representative Carol Hall asked the board to reconcile all of their COVID funding with a document that she provided. The Board of Ed realized that there is a $1.6 million of CARES money that the board never received. The Board of Ed only received $995,000 of the $2.6 million designated to the Enfield Board of Ed. But I did just get an email about an hour ago from Carol Hall stating that the state had incorrect numbers on the original document it gave to us, and we, the Board of Ed, are correct in what we had reported and spent. So in summary, $1.4 million in alliance money not received for the 2022-23 and 23-24 school years, which is $2.8 million. $1.8 million in unanticipated special education students and services in the 23-24 school year. As of now, it could increase by the end, but that's where we're at now. $2.5 million in surplus money sent from the state, mysteriously taken from the Board of Ed bank account that the Board of Ed had for contingencies. The lack of contingency money due to covering for lack of alliance money in the 22-23 school year. $600,000 in shortfall with excess cost money for the 23-24 school year. And $1.7 million in reimbursement money for the town of Enfield projects. So compounding these unfortunate series of events, that's about $7.6 million of things not received, unaccounted for, and shorted and not reimbursed, with an additional 1.8 in unanticipated special education costs. So far, we've only been able to freeze the budget back in November of '23 and a hiring freeze of non-essential staff. We did have a joint leadership meeting on February 1st with the town council leadership to advise them that things are not looking good, and then we've had subsequent meetings from there. So how does the Board of Ed not repeat this shortfall in the future? If this year's shortfall gets resolved, whatever the town council appropriates for the Board of Ed for the 24-25 school year will be the only money that is used to adopt the budget on that appropriation only. The Board of Ed will not assume any alliance carve-out from ECS for the 24-25 school year and beyond. Whatever appropriation that the town council submits to the Board of Ed will be the expenditures that the Board of Ed will operate on, and nothing more. The Board of Ed will also budget no more than 67% of the excess cost from the state for special education. The Board of Ed will adjust the budget accordingly after a town appropriation is made for any unexpected special education costs to the best of their ability. To increase communication, the Board of Ed will provide quarterly updates to the town council with any unexpected special education costs in real time. So I'm not exactly sure how the shortfall coverage would work, but if the town council covers the board shortfall in this fiscal year and permits the Board of Ed to aspire to carry any extra into the 24-25 school year, any additional revenue more than a 2% carryover will be returned to the town. So on behalf of the Board of Education, I am asking the town council to cover the Board of Education shortfall. We cannot carry a deficit. We passed a motion at the last Board of Education meeting allowing me to come here and ask for this. So that's where we're at.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. So we've been talking about this, and the first meeting that we had was in November. I sat with you, Tina, and Chris Drezik, and the town manager, Chris Prompson, and he told us how bad things were. And your numbers were right. It was $7+ million at that time. And I want to commend you, as the chairman of the Board of Ed, for getting it down to the $3.9 million. It's still a big pill to swallow. And I understand your explanation, but I don't think anybody in this room funds their yearly budget with a lottery ticket they haven't scratched. And when you count on grant money in this state, that's no way to budget. And I think you see that, and you've addressed how next year that's not going to happen. But what I am going to, for me to support giving the Board of Ed $3.9 million for this year so the people can get paid through the rest of the year and bills can be balanced, I am going to require a full forensic audit of the Board of Education for the last 2 years. There was over $10 million in COVID money. There were some very nice increases that the Democrats gave. And so where did the money go? But I'm also going to require the same thing of the town, but that has nothing to do with you guys. We'll address that later on in the meeting. And also, with that, I want the MOU that you agree to the forensic audit run by the town. And from this point forward, the Board of Ed is going back to what it used to do, and that's a line item budget. I mean, the 1.4 million, we've had meetings. The town, can you say that the town, the Democrats gave you $75,800,000 last year? Were you fully funded the $75,800,000?
Correct.
Yes, you were. And same with the year before. So the town council did their job, and it was under Mayor Crissati at the time. So I am defending them that you were fully funded from the town of Enfield. ECS is a reimbursement to the town for the money that the taxpayers put up. And that was part of one of the tax increases that the residents had to face, is they covered that 1.4 million. And by rights, they should have reduced the mill rate when the money came in. That didn't happen. And thus, that's why we want the audit of the town side also. A couple questions that I have, though, is with the explanation about the capital projects for the tennis courts and the parking lot, when I'm assuming when Enfield High just didn't work out redoing all the fields, this was the Board of Ed offering to help, which was great. And the first $1.4 million, if you truly felt the town owed it to you, why did we wait 2.5 years to bring it to the town council? Because you and I were the first ones to talk about this about 2 months ago, Charlotte. Tina, you were there. You know, if somebody shorted me $500 in my bank account, I wouldn't wait 2 years to discuss it. I would discuss it immediately. I understand you had COVID money to cover things, but that COVID money shouldn't have been used for that. The big question I have is in the budget book, it's showing 67 new positions. They're not all full-time, and the way your math works, part-time and everything else, that were not in the budget, but they're there now. And I'm assuming $50,000 an employee, and not one of them was a teacher, comes out to $3.5 million. You're short $3.9 million. The numbers kind of seem a little close. The 2% carryover should have covered the special needs costs. Thus, the reason for the forensic audit, was there really a 2% carryover last year? I don't have that answer, and I'm not sure you do. There wasn't.
There was not a 2% carryover. And regarding the audit, every year, and it's on the town website, there's an audit done by an outside facility that audits the books every year. And this previous year, the board's audit has already been completed. This town's audit is still out there. So I know that you want to do an audit and another audit, fine, but I'm just telling you, like, there are audits online that says that you passed, we passed, but last year's is still
Right.
out.
So even if the company that's hired takes the audit that you did, reviews it, and because a lot of people are questioning, where did all this money go? I can honestly say right now, I don't believe there was any ill will or misuse of the funds at all. You know, it was spent in the education, but it was overspent. And that's what I believe happened. So the people out there that are saying, you know, $4 million was stolen, that is not what we're talking about here. And I want to go on the record saying that I don't blame anybody for that. This is just something that, a big part of it is the board changed control, and you did bring it to our attention right away, Charlotte. So if you're willing to agree for the town to run a forensic audit and to give us a line-by-line item budget from this point forward and sign the MOU with the town, I will ask, and we've talked about it, that we support giving the board the 3.9 million so they could zero out. And we agreed that if you are able to come up with some more savings from now till the end of the year, use that money to try to rebuild your 2% to help you for next year. So if it's over that, well, we can talk about it at that point. Now, as far as the charter goes, the town of Enfield cannot write a check for anything over $800,000+. So John Wilcox and the town manager will be working with the superintendent, and we will assume the bills and we will pay them for $3.9 million. So at that point, if the council agrees, that's how we're going to have to do this. We fund a lot of your bills to begin with, for benefits and a lot of other things. So it's normal procedure that we do this, but we can't actually hand you a check for $3.9 million. If you're willing to agree to those terms, then I will help, and let's start from today and move forward and try to move Enfield forward. But I thank you for the explanation, both of you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor
Sure.
Nelson, I just have a question. So if an MOU needs to be signed, do we have to bring that back to the board
Yes.
and have the board vote on it?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to double check
Yep.
on that.
Yep. Councilman Ludwig.
Welcome. Thank you both for being here. Charlotte, on your timeline, and curious though, I mean, let's be clear. So this MOU has to happen right away because 7/1 is your budget, and this has to be done in this current fiscal year. We don't have a whole lot of time left. So, I mean, I don't think you meet in June, correct?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so this has got to be a priority. So I just want to make sure I understand the timeline. So you mentioned, please correct me if I'm wrong, you said January 23rd, there was a surplus of, you're calling surplus money of 2.5 million. But then you made a comment, it was in your budget on December 9th, 2022.
It was in our account.
It was in our account. We did not
So
put it
then
in the
you
budget.
didn't know it was there, but you got notified the next month. I just want to make sure I understand. So that
Yes.
this is what I want to make, because we work in finance, and I know you do too. When there's a transaction, there's a record of a transaction.
Yes, sir.
There's got to be a record somewhere of this transaction.
There's a
And if
record,
it, so then, okay, then if it's in your budget in December, someone in your staff must have known, but why weren't you notified till January? If I'm understanding how you explain the timeline.
Well, if they go in the budget at the beginning of the month, and we had, school break and stuff, so if it went into the account on December 9th, they weren't looking at that account until January, at the very beginning of January.
But was there a record of that? So then, when did the money not be, when did someone notice the money wasn't there?
I can probably help
go right
you.
ahead, yeah, please.
So the finance director got an email from a town employee saying that there was $2.5 million that was
Yeah.
labeled Board of Ed surplus fund, and would she like to draw down on it? But further research was needed because nobody wants to spend $2.5 million if it's not earmarked. And
Right.
we're noticing we're not having a great relationship with the state right now either, right? So when we saw the budget shortfall, she went back to go check on it, and that's when she noticed that the money was gone.
And so how often does, in your I know you guys run by policies and procedures, how often does your finance director, whatever their title is, check or monitor your wire lines, budget? I know on a monthly basis, you folks should be meeting as a board to know what your expenditures are versus your revenue. So just curious, I understand the break, but you see, I mean, December 9th to January is a long time to not know you don't have 2.5 million in your account. I'm saying when stuff like this happens, I'm not blaming anybody, but there's usually a breakdown of a workflow or a process. So I'm curious if you guys have talked about that or you haven't even got into that yet.
I mean,
We haven't gotten into that
Yeah.
as to how often they go into those accounts, because as the way that I understand it, and I could be wrong, but we can definitely clarify for you.
Please.
Is it's that account, things don't usually go in and out of that account very often.
Right.
And so and I appreciate I'll actually go read the audit. I apologize, I haven't done that. But but the auditor, generally, when there's an audit of anything, they usually make comments on, even if it's legal, but what, did they make recommendations on how you're handling with the short? So usually an auditor will say, look, yes, they've done this, however, this could happen if it's not monitored. Usually they make recommendations, or are they saying watch outs? I know you've been through an audit, and I'm just saying, did they make, I'm going to read it myself, but curious if you knew off the top of your head, if they made any, because again, I have to say to not know that, I mean, you know what I mean? There's got to be some documentation somewheres, and if you're expecting a wire from the state, or anybody, even from the town, there should be a paper, I'm assuming you have it, a paper trail of where is it, who do you contact?
Yeah, we have documentation of the town telling us we have it there, and then the town asking the state, what is this? Where did it come from? Back and forth.
And then our business
and then
manager
our business
asking the
manager.
town if they knew what happened to the money.
Correct.
So did the state, did anyone talk to the state on this, since it came from
Yeah.
the state budget?
Yes.
What did they
Came from the
say?
Treasury.
What'd they say?
That's as far as we got, is it
Okay.
came from the Treasury.
Got it. Okay, fair. And again, appreciate everything you do. When you mentioned, I'm just, when you talked about some line item expenditures, and you guys don't have to follow the generally accepted accounting principles, is that correct, by state law?
True, which is why we don't have a line item budget.
So what principles or accounting principles do you have to follow? Because the concerning comment was, we're going to budget now based on, I understand you expect grants, but that generally isn't how anyone budgets. Is that new for the board, or is that how the board's
No,
been
that's
doing
how
it?
the board usually operates.
Right.
There's, in your budget books at the end, it's got a whole list of grants that come
Right.
in, and those are generally accepted grants that normally come in, so we would not, assume that most of the time that they wouldn't.
But now that you've been
But
2 years
now
of not
that
getting them,
obviously
yeah.
things have changed.
That's what I'm saying. So that's my suggestion. I'm not trying to
Yes.
tell you what to do with your money, but that if it, fool you twice, the whole whatever, right? Now that the state or whoever, I mean, even if it's a town, right? To your point, will you set policies? So I know the board is very policy driven.
Yes.
That, okay, you know what? So if that does happen, you have a whatever, someone in the finance area notifies X, notifies Y, notifies the board, you have an executive session, whatever it may be. So again, there's almost like a mini work group to handle this sort of situation if it happens again for you folks when it comes to grants.
Well, I think what's interesting, Counselor Ludwig, is Tom Serrard used to say it for many years. The way the Board of Ed has to do their budget is backwards. We
Right.
set our budget in February. And especially when it's a state year, you are going on a lot of hearsay because the state doesn't actually approve their budget till June.
Right.
And I think we've had these conversations and budget discussions about, we have like one common enemy. Like there have been so many changes that have come through about the excess cost sharing grant. Like, do you at that time go by what you're believing the state is going to fund you from the state communications, or do you reduce it? I guess you err on the side of caution. But this is the way it's always been done.
Got it.
So
No, fair enough. No,
And
I'm
now we
not
have to
trying to
change
put you on
it,
the spot.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
If I could make a suggestion, I'd love to hear you say, even if state law doesn't require it, that you're going to follow the generally accepted accounting principles so we can have a paper trail if something like this happens. I know you don't have to, because you can budget by programs and you don't have to do line items,
Well,
but
I do have to say that Lorena Cisneros, who's the finance manager, she is phenomenal. And if you ask her where anything is, where it went, how it came in, she can go into that Munis system. I've seen her do it in like a couple of minutes, and it's there. You
Right.
can find out how it came in, what it went. You can even track it down to like what supplies went to Enfield Street School and what the vendor was.
And so to be clear now, so timing, right? So you have basically a month left of this budget year. So if we allocate this money to you for this fiscal year, let's be clear on our language here.
Right.
You folks are ready to be able to,
Yes.
again, so we're meet the deadline. We're not going to be scrambling on 6:30 at midnight on, June 30th. Just want to make sure that you've already thought that through. Okay, we got a plan, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would just like to add too, I think communication with the state, we had found out after the fact that, and Representative Hall went and spoke to Matt Ritter, who said that we could actually apply for a waiver.
A waiver, yeah.
Granted, because we had so many
Right.
additional kids enter our district after our budget was set that needed special ed services. So, I
That
mean,
waiver will apply to this next year. No,
but
not this year,
again,
next year.
oh yeah, right. But
Right.
again,
That's still.
The waiver for the money, for the money.
But do you
for the money
believe the waiver?
legally-
I don't
do
really
you
know.
believe the process? Like we
For the-
submitted everything, but are we going to actually
For
get
the money
it? So-
you legally should be getting per law, if you,
Right.
again, to your point, I didn't read the audit, so I apologize. But you read the law, you should be getting this money. And, you know, you're assuming 67%, you said?
67% now, yeah.
That's
Yep.
unbelievable.
Well, I think you made a point
Yeah.
to that
Yeah.
in the
Mhm.
budget deliberations,
Yeah.
that was, when that law bill was passed, I believe it was supposed to be 100%. And we've never had 100%.
Yeah,
So,
right, you actually have to pass a bill to follow the law, imagine that.
Yeah, that's-
So, sorry, I don't mean, but again, I am for, again, the council we're the Board of Finance, okay? No one wants to sort of admit that that's another one of our roles. And again, we don't tell you how to spend your money. That's why we gave you the contingency fund a few years ago, so you could have some flexibility in your budget. And you're not coming to us, you know, with what your budget decisions are. I'm willing to support, again, and I think, I agree with Mayor Nelson, you know, we got to change, there's got to be a breakdown, even if the town, again, this is, my understanding of this has always been, the money comes to the town, it's a pass-through account, it goes into you guys have access to the account, and that's really how it works, it's that simple. I don't think it is that simple,
simple.
and that's what needs to change, because if it's not that simple, because it should be that simple, because the state money is your money, and that's the way, at least in my experience, we always historically acted, that it was your money, i.e. Board of Ed money for that, and the town just basically passed it through. And the policy in the past used to be, we would make you whole if you were short.
right.
Correct, and we
Right,
we
we'd
have
make you whole.
always given
That
money
used to
back
be
if
the
we
policy.
were over.
Yeah,
Right.
we always, yeah.
So again, I thank you. I agree with Mayor Nelson. Again, look, I'm willing to, I think we need to talk as both board and council, making sure our finance procedures are jive. Because this is stuff that, again, we can fix. I mean, this is fixable. Good news, this is fixable. That's the good news, right? And let's just document it. So, I mean, the one thing about budgeting and is when you use miscellaneous or you don't pass a resolution to go from X to Y, gray area happens. And when people leave, folks forget what's going on. You know, we're sort of in this position as we are now. So I'm just saying my only advice, and I'm willing to, you know, because again, I think it's important, whether you support a budget, you don't support a budget, you support 2%, you support 8%, whatever your supporting is the public needs to understand that we're trying to do this, you know, again, A plus B equals C.
Right.
And you use algebra every single day of your life. So I appreciate it. I agree. I'm willing to support this and appreciate you have the courage to come here. It's not easy coming asking for money, certainly in public. And, but thank you.
Thanks, Mike. One question. The 2.6 million that was in your account and it disappeared, how did you pass an audit? That would be a red flag to anybody who sees that.
It was the town's account, right? I believe.
the
The
town-
town notified us that the money
Right.
had been deposited into that account and that it was labeled Board of Ed surplus funds.
Right.
Then-
Right, and along with what Councilman Ludwig said, you know, we have some questions on our side too, and that's why we're requiring the same thing of the town side, because the residents have a right to know where all this money's going, and $2.6 million, where is it?
Right, and by
We don't
no
know.
way are we pointing fingers or
No.
placing.
Right,
blame.
absolutely.
It's like,
Yep,
where did it go? That's it.
right, so, all right, thank you. Deputy Mayor Pisner.
So I, too, am going to support this because we need to make our Board of Education whole. I mean, there's no two ways about it. We have to pay the bills and make you guys whole. I do agree in the forensic audit on both sides. I'm happy to hear that we're going to be getting quarterly reports. I think it's important, and I think for you to look at it quarterly is important as well, to make sure that this doesn't happen again. It sounds like you're on a good path so that this doesn't happen again next year. I think we all need to work together on this, because at the end of the day, this is for the town. This is affecting our students, our staff, our schools, our residents. So thank you for coming. Thank you for clarifying it, because there's been so many rumors out there. Everybody's got a rumor.
Right.
And I really thank you guys for coming here. I know it's not easy. I will be supporting it, and I have every confidence that we won't be sitting here next year with this same problem.
Can I just say something, Deputy Mayor Pisner? we cannot control how many kids come into our town. That would be the only thing that we would not be able to budget for. I think there's going to be an effort, but it's really hard. If we can get the contingency fund, that's what that would be. I would say as far as the excess cost sharing grant, there's a solution for that. But if we have an influx of kids, that would be the hard part. But there'll be quarterly meetings, so you would know at that point.
Right, it gives us a little heads up, so we can say, okay.
Yeah.
Take a breather, let's see which way we can go. But,
Right.
again, you have 100% of my backing on this.
And then just to piggyback off of what Tina LeBlanc had said, and I've heard it multiple times, just like random kids don't just come into our district. They either live in Enfield, they're Enfield residents, and if you watch the patch, you'll see 19 homes sold this week, 15 homes sold this week. So there's an influx of people coming in. So that's not unusual that something like that would happen. And the only other kids that come into the district are Hartford Choice kids, and Hartford pays tuition for them. So it's not like random kids from East Windsor are coming in or Springfield. If they live there and then they moved here to live here, then yes. But we just don't accept kids from random places.
Councilman Santinella.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. So some of this I can understand. I understand when you get 60 kids, there's a cost, and that cost is $1.7 million in this particular case. That, I can get my head around that. I can't get my head around this $2.5 million. And I'm really, really struggling with that. According to what you said, it was deposited and then it's just poof, disappeared. And to Councilor Ludwig's point, I mean, there's no paper trail. We have it going in, but we have nothing in the system that you referenced, the Munis system, showing 1 penny of it coming out. I really am struggling to understand
it was transferred
that.
back out. But then after that,
There was a $2.5 million withdrawal,
no,
and we don't know where that went.
no.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just need to be absolutely clear. That is,
That's
we're
why
on
we
the same
need
page.
the audit.
I want to be absolutely clear. Obviously we are going to support this. We are going to support this, but we did speak last week. I absolutely support a forensic audit of this, and I have a real hard time understanding how this happens without us having a real firm handle on all this money. And so, I'm never going to not support our Board of Education, obviously. But if I put my business hat on, there's some things here that still just are not adding up. And I'm hoping that we can find a way to put safeguards in place that doesn't happen again. I know there's a lot going on, and you guys are not doing debits and credits in the accounting system. But we need to have better controls, and I would support that. But, some of this is beyond your control, and it's not unusual for you to anticipate grant money coming in and have budgeted that way many times in the past. That's not an unusual practice.
No, it's not
Right.
unusual at all.
And so I just want to be clear about that as well. So thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, John. And Councilman Crissati.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the explanation. Over the past couple of years, sitting in on meetings and sitting on the last meeting that we actually had, the last two meetings in regard to the shortfall. Once again, it's very hard to wrap around. I understand certain costs. I get all of that. But, it was stated earlier, the last two fiscal years, you were funded appropriately. And to see what we're having to deal with right now is, it's difficult to fully understand. And so I do, once again, just like everybody else, I am in totally agreement that we definitely need to find where this transaction deposited and it was transferred back out, this difference of 2.5. Once again, if we were notified even 2 years ago, last year, we could have started correcting this issue instead of now. So my only thing is, I wish that we had known a couple of years ago and even last year that we were in this type of situation so that we could have started this process of correcting these monies with the grants that are coming in. Like, we have no control over the percentages of money that comes in, but we can get a grasp on it so that we're not in a situation. I'm in favor of, making this whole. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Hendrickson.
All right, thank you both for coming up here, and I do appreciate it. I will be in support of this also. Good things do happen from bad events, and I think finding some guardrails and some protection from this not happening again is probably a good thing that we've gone through this. I know it was a lot of work. My big frustration was we heard different stories every day, and I know you were trying to track this down, and it took a while. I just wish we had known ahead of time instead of panicking at the last minute here. So I do appreciate all the work you put into it, and coming up with the quarterly updates and all that are great ideas that we need to put in place. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hendrickson. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you for coming forward and presenting, to the council. The only question, I think it may have been answered, but to make our board whole for this current year is 3.9%. Is that correct?
Million, not percent.
Or million,
It's almost
3.9 million?
7%.
Okay. I want to clarify between the percent and the millions. All right, thank you.
All set, Cindy?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So I think you have consensus from the council, bipartisan. We're going to help you guys out with the 3.9. Again, I think we all agree with the MOU for the forensic audit. I don't understand how it would pass with 2.6 missing on your side and our side if none of us know, and we all want the answers. So what I'm going to ask of the council is, due to the fact we're down to the last minutes here, once you, and you can do it too, I'm willing to call a special meeting of the council to sign the MOU once you get it to us. So if you call a special meeting for tomorrow, I'll call one tomorrow night for you guys so we can help you move forward. But those have to be in there, the forensic audit, line by line item budget, and I think you did, obviously you explained you're not funding your next budget with grants. You can't fund that way. And I know it's hard because it's a big part of your budget, but you just can't gamble on a lottery ticket, especially in the state of Connecticut. So, if you guys are okay with that, I would say call a special meeting, get people to agree to the MOU, get it to the town manager, and we have to post the meeting. So whatever the law is, we'll meet immediately if you guys are okay with doing that. Bob, you're good with that? So,
I think the best, we would have to give 24 hours notice, so
Right,
it
right.
would probably have to be like Wednesday or.
I was just, following the law with the
Gotcha.
notification. Same with us. So we're looking at 4 days from right now is the soonest it could happen, so.
Right. Plus, we would need probably board legal, to draft it up and stuff, so that's not.
And the town will draft it up for you. We'll cover the cost of that. Sorry, Chris.
But the town attorney, just to be clear, because the devil's in the details, we have to have it signed by both the council and the board by the first meeting in June. So please articulate to the town attorney the specific requirements you would like in it. He will write it. We'll put it on our meeting for this first meeting in June. We'll put it on for the board. And then once it's signed, then the second meeting in June, you can act on the transfers, and John Wilcox will be prepared to do them, because it has to be done by July 1st. You've got to attend to this business in this fiscal year, so it has to be done.
Correct.
You have 2 weeks for the MOU to be written and then be signed.
So,
Our next meeting is a week from tomorrow, right? Our regular.
Our next meeting is a week from tomorrow,
Yeah.
plus we have a meeting on June 11th and then June 23rd.
That'll be too late.
or
right.
something.
Your next meeting,
Our
you
next
need
meeting,
to,
yes, the
if not
28th.
sooner. So our requirement would be the forensic audit and the line-by-line budget from this point forward, not just next year, but that's how we used to get the budgets. That's how we want the budgets coming in. And I know we tried to get them the last several years. So if you guys are good with that, that's what we want in the MOU. You have consensus. We'll help you guys out. So like I said, call a special meeting and get us that MOU. We'll do the same, get it signed, and make sure everybody gets paid. And, you know, just so people realize, the 3.6 that they gave you last year, this is almost another 7% on top of that the Board of Ed spent last year. So we can't keep doing this.
Mayor Nelson, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you say more detail in the budget, are you saying like we would have Enfield High and you'd want to know how many teachers teach math and how many teachers teach science? Like, is that the detail
In the math
that you're
department,
looking for,
yes.
rather than like full FTEs?
Right, so you have 67 FTEs, the increase in here, but who are they? Now, the previous superintendent, I think he's still the superintendent today.
No, he's
No,
not.
he's done.
Okay, well, he had said all 67.5 of those positions, whether they were moved or whatever, not one of them was a teacher. And that's what really bothers me sitting up here is people are spreading the rumors that 120 teachers are going to lose their jobs, when the biggest part of this problem doesn't have anything to do with one teacher. So I just, the people who are threatening the teachers that they're going to lose their jobs, I don't accept that. It's not appropriate. You know, let's go to pre-COVID. Let's back up before COVID and start again. COVID messed up everybody and everything. So if we have to go back 3 years, then maybe that's what we do and we start again. So,
Yeah, we always talk about the detail. And for me, I just want to know what level. You know, do you want to see, you know, Eli Whitney, how many third grade teachers, how many fourth grade teachers, how many fifth grade teachers, who teaches art, who teaches PE? Like, that is what I want to know. Is that what you're looking for?
right. You can pick up the town budget book and just duplicate it, you know, and it may not have to be by school, but how many math teachers are grade 6? You know, because then we'll be able to see, and so will the residents. You know, did we increase? You know, why are class sizes getting bigger, or why are they getting smaller? Well, you hired 3 more math teachers. That's why the classes are smaller. It's a clearer picture of what is actually going on within our schools. You know, the town has to do it, and I just think even for you guys, it's just so much easier to find what we're looking for. And, you know, I know Mr. Colbert has been asking for information, you know, and he's been running up against a brick wall. And if he had a detailed budget book like we have, he could open last year's budget book and find his own information. And he can't do that right now, so.
I've provided Mr. Comer with a lot
No,
of
you
information.
did, right. But and then you and I have talked about this, Charlotte. It's hard for you to run the entire Board of Education and get everybody their information. They have to do their own legwork. We, the 11 council members, we open our budget book, and it's right there. We don't have to contact the town manager, you know, and just so we're on the same page. We'll get go ahead.
Before these ladies leave, Mr. Wilcox, our finance director, has texted me to say he has an explanation in regard to the $2.5 million. So I don't think there's any reason to delay. I think he should come in and let us know what his explanation is in regarding that $2.5 million, because it appears to be a mystery. So,
Is he here?
yes, he texted me and he's going to come in.
Okay, well, we're waiting on him. Councilman Ungary, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to thank you for coming in and making an explanation. I mean, we have to go through a booklet this size to get all our information. In the last couple of years, we only got a few pages from the Board of Ed. And so this is more like what we're looking for, you know, the devil's in the details, and that may help us avoid any other kind of pitfall in the future. Thank you.
Right. I just wanted to get a clearer understanding of what you meant by details, that it was actually like by teacher, by grade breakout of the employees. That's all I wanted to know, because details could mean one thing to you, but another thing to somebody else. So rather than all of us just saying details, well, we gave you details, I'd rather just have us get all on the same page today for the next budget cycle.
Or maybe we should have a leadership with like people who are on your finance committee and ours, so that we can clearly delineate exactly what it is that you would like.
I think we talked about doing that anyways, so. Councilman Ludwig?
And document, right? Document, because
Yes, sir.
I'm going to read, I promise I'm going to read the audit. But I keep coming back to this, so it sounds like you guys carry a deficit, not every month, but if you're waiting for a certain grant, you spend some money. What does the auditor comment on that? There's got to be an auditor comment, because I'm sorry, most people don't run their budgets that way. I'm not questioning, I'm just saying the auditor should have made, well, hey, this is how they do it. There is a risk of X and Y if they don't get the grant. That's what an auditor generally does in their report. And so maybe we have to, I'm not suggesting look at a new auditor, but I haven't read the report. Have they commented if you're carrying a deficit in certain months because you're waiting for a grant and you're spending the money? Is there a comment that they've made, or I don't know? And again, I'll read the report, so I apologize. But I don't know if you have anything, because again, it's strange to me. And if it's always done that way, that's fine, but.
Well, I think what's interesting is like with special ed, we can't really quantify it until June.
Fair. That's fair,
When
yeah.
school's out, because it's charged by day,
Yeah.
based on the student and the services they receive for that day. So it's hard to just say that a student is special ed in 4th grade and they need this. It's a very tedious process. But they do have to provide it. So
Right.
we don't know from the state until we finalize our special ed costs and then whatever percentage they're going to reimburse us. So
Got it.
that's like the tricky part with the special ed costs.
Yep, fair enough. Okay, thank you. I won't
Yeah.
belabor the point. Thank you.
Right, and that's where the 2% would come in.
Yes.
To help you cover those costs.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we're all set, we're on the same page. John Wilcox is going to come up now and take your seat. I would say stick around so we can hear his explanation of the 2.5 million. John? Or, I'm sorry, Chris? I can't direct town staff.
Well, I think under these circumstances, you can. This is John Wilcox, our finance director, who was here over the last 2 years and can hopefully explain the $2.5 million.
Okay. So you're asking for documentation. There's the $2.5 million. This is one of the TD Bank accounts. Just shows the transaction coming in. What it was is a deposit from our Connecticut Short-Term Investment Fund. There are very few things that the town is allowed to invest our money in. One of them is the Short-Term Investment Fund of the state of Connecticut. So basically, it is a cash management function. Most of our tax collections come in July. So we take money out of our cash account because we don't need it then, and we move it in there. And that's one of the reasons our investment income was higher this year, because interest rates on that STIF account, short-term investment fund account, have gone up. So we put money in there. But periodically, we need to pull money out of that account, okay, and fund our operations. So we need to pay bills, we need to pay employees, all that stuff, okay? So that is usually the purview of the treasurer, okay? And Greg Simmons was the treasurer at the time, and he pulled money out of that, and it went into the Board of Ed payroll. We have two options that we can select from when we draw down the money. One is a town account, one is they're all town accounts, but one is strictly used for the Board of Ed payroll, and I believe that's the account that they're talking about. And I tried to explain that it was just a cash management function. All right, so the money came in. It was town money. It wasn't any money from the state or anything like that. there is some confusion on it because the description on it says State of Connecticut, and that's because it's State of Connecticut Short-Term Investment Fund. But I have the statements showing our transfer from the short-term investment fund. It's all documented. It's not anything that is, it wouldn't be subject to any audit because it's just normal operation. Well, it would be subject to the audit, but there's nothing nefarious or anything like that about it. It's just normal cash management. So, I mean, like I said, I think what happened is that Greg had two options. He picked the Board of Ed account. It went in there, and they saw State of Connecticut and thought it was a grant transfer. But it's State of Connecticut Short-Term Investment Fund.
And so he withdrew it? Then he withdrew it thereafter?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually...
I was a little surprised to hear this coming up, and I can see Charlotte and Tina weren't aware of it. Mr. Drezik, and I'm sure he would confirm it, when he had brought this up to me a couple months ago, that he thought $2.5 million from the state had arrived and it disappeared. And he was candid because he was having communications with the Commissioner of Education to say, where did this money go? And they couldn't track it down. So when he brought it to my attention, I said, talk to Mr. Wilcox, and he explained it to Mr. Drezik. Now, I think it's probably something that when we do a forensic audit, we'll let them look at it just to confirm it. But what John has said, and that's why I was a little surprised, I thought the issue was settled, that, we have our investment funds. They can only go into two accounts. Ours, we pay payroll. We have an account for the Board of Ed for their payroll. Apparently, Mr. Simmons put it in that account. When he realized it went in there, he transferred it back for the town side. That's my understanding. It was relayed to Mr. Drezik. I don't know if he shared it, but in any event, we're going to be doing audits of both sides, so we'll let them look at it. John has the documentation, but I didn't want today to go by for people to think that there's a missing 2.5 that the state owes, because there isn't. So I think we've heard enough on it. I would just say deferred questions. We're going to do an audit, and we'll point them right to it. We'll give them all the documents, and that way the board will know that they're not missing money, and we'll know that that's exactly what happened. And I will tell you, here and now, I know there are skeptics in all of these funding, and I wasn't here for the last 2 years, and that's not by way of excuse or saying, don't look at me. I've just known Mr. Wilcox since I've worked here, and I would bet my job that what he just said is correct. Period. End of story. And thank you, Mr. Sentinel and all the members. He is as honest as the day is long, and that's what happened. And I believe it, but I know there will be doubting Thomases, people in Missouri, show me, and we'll make sure we have the auditors look at it to confirm it. But thank you, John, for explaining it.
Thank you, John.
John, real quick, again, but this is thank you. This is what we should be doing in public, is having honest debates, defending. Thank you. I mean, this is exactly what we should be doing, showing the public, not be, and discussing things. So thank you. And this has been a very good, adult conversation in public.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Okay. So we are going to move on to public communications. Any person who wishes to address the council shall first be recognized by the chair and shall state their name and address for the record. They shall limit their remarks to 5 minutes. After each person has had the chance to speak, those desiring to speak a second time will be permitted to do so and shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. During public communications, item number 7 on the agenda, public members shall limit their remarks to 2 rounds, 8 minutes. During public communications, item 16 on the agenda, if prior to 11 p.m., each person shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Public communication shall be limited to 1 hour unless extended by a majority vote of the council. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any individual member. All remarks addressed to the administration of the town shall be addressed to the town manager and not to an individual employee. Public members shall observe proper decorum and good conduct and shall refrain from personalities and improper language. Okay, who would like to come up and speak first? Ma'am.
Sorry. Okay. Good evening. My name is Linda Allegro. My address is 23 Vintner Place in Enfield. When my children attended the Enfield school system in the 1980s and 90s, I sat in the same chair in the same room, fighting for the quality of their education. I thought we were moving forward. Now I sit here again as a retired resident on a fixed income and a grandparent with children in the school system. I just want to urge every member of this town council that our students should always come first. I'm a retired educator. I worked with children almost all my life. This is important. It's important to our community, and it is important to our future to put our school system and our children first. Enfield needs to support our teachers and students by securing our proposed school budget. Laying off teachers will increase unsatisfactory classroom sizes. I know. I was one of those students in the 60s that sat in a classroom with 30 plus other students. It's not ideal. I also worked in classrooms that had 30 plus students. Not ideal. Research consistently shows us that small classroom size is instrumental in providing an effective learning environment for all of our students. Also, by laying off teachers, your decision will contribute to an already teacher shortage in this country. Teachers will be faced to leave the field. They'll be forced to be in classrooms. The teachers that do stay, they will be forced to work in classrooms that will be very difficult and challenging. They too will leave. So I ask, we cannot let this happen. Now is the time to support our teachers and students by passing our original school budget. And I thank each and every one of you with all my heart to always, always put our children first. Thank you.
Thank you. In the purple. Yep, you.
Angelique Sherins, 19 Sam Street. I'm here in several capacities this evening, as the parent of an incoming kindergartner, as a taxpayer, and as a non-renewed special education teacher. Let me start by thanking the community members, and especially the students, who have supported the public schools throughout these last few weeks. It is noticed and it is certainly appreciated. Despite what some members of this council will say about the children in our town who speak out to advocate for their futures, you are neither clowns nor pawns. And your teachers know that you are taught taxes and percentages, including percent increase and decrease, in the 7th grade, because it's in the standards, and it's in the state curriculum, and it's on your state testing. So even if the town council doesn't know that, we, your teachers, know that. To that end, we know better than many of the town council members here who are determined to defund your education and kneecap your future, just how smart and knowledgeable and vocal you are. We respect and admire that so many of you are well informed about what is happening in this town and taking action of your own volition to safeguard your futures when town leadership doesn't have your best interests in mind. One of the qualities that makes me exemplary at my job is my ability to clearly and effectively communicate with students and their families. Generally, I try to use the simplest explanation possible so that meaning isn't lost or misinterpreted. With that in mind, let me be very clear in my remarks here this evening. I have voiced my concerns about education and this budget situation, both publicly and privately, to town council members and members of the Board of Education. One of my primary concerns is how this town council continues to point to students with special needs as a problem to be fixed, as a drain on our resources, as the reason we're in a budget fiasco, despite the fact that those children are not the ones who haven't raised our property taxes consistent with other towns in the area or in conjunction with increasing town needs for years. In pointing out the harm that the rhetoric targeting our students with special needs causes to our community, I incited quite an angry, poorly crafted, unprofessional, and threatening response from one of our town council members. Don't worry about me, though, town council. The union has those emails. Now, I know that this is not actually about the budget and property tax increases. We all know, including the council before me, that the national platform of the Republican Party pushes for defunding public education under the guise of parent choice and fighting woke indoctrination, whatever that even means. We also know that there is no time at any point in history, in any country, where the good guys limited access to education, defunded education, deprioritized education. We know this is about ideology and not, in fact, raising property taxes. If it were truly about the money, we'd reduce the size of our police force, put caps on police overtime, put a pause on sports field makeovers, push the state for more funding for the seniors, support legislation that subsidizes housing costs, childcare, adult care, support expanding Medicare or universal health care to protect seniors who want to stay in their homes. If this was truly about the budget, you'd be at least a little concerned about how much the town will have to pay toward unemployment every week once June 13th hits. Knowing that this is rooted in far-right ideology makes the task of convincing you to fund public education a relatively easy one, in that I know that I can't. Most of the people speaking here know that you are resolute, so sure in your decision that you don't falter even once to consider the ramifications of what you are doing. You say you care, but you don't actually care enough to listen to the people who live here. I know that other residents in Enfield are watching right now. Those are the people I'm speaking to. They're hearing the community come and speak in support of funding our schools and watching as week after week, you don't listen to the constituents. When I speak to you, I'm speaking to those families who feel betrayed and anxious and angry about defunding our schools, and who will remember this when it's time to vote again. I have already had parents ask me how the cuts to the schools will impact special ed services for their children. I don't have answers for them. They know that I don't have a job next year. They know that many of my colleagues don't have jobs next year. And it will be that much harder for their child's new teachers to reach out to last year's team for background info
I'm sorry.
when 80% of that team was pink slipped.
You can come back for 3 minutes.
Aidan Tatro, 42 Green Manor Road. Good evening, Council. I've been thinking a lot about what I plan to say at this meeting. I know that in one brief 5-minute speech, there is no way for me to convey to you the amount of stress, anxiety, and worry that this budget has caused me, a junior at Enfield High. I can say I'm lucky enough to only have to deal with the consequences of what happens today for one more year, but there are over 4,000 students you're affecting today who aren't able to say that same thing. If we were legitimately in a budget crisis due to overspending, this would be an understandable situation for the council to act on. However, this is just not the case. We have the money, the council has openly admitted this, but a majority of the council says they would rather keep this money in the bank account as opposed to using it. I would love to keep providing you with anecdotes from Enfield Public School students, but instead, let me focus on facts. I've done my research. On the Enfield Town website are budgets back to fiscal year 2010, and I've drowned myself in numbers looking at all of them from a historical perspective. What I've learned is that the Board of Education repeatedly figures out what they need in the budget to thrive. They cut these numbers back, and then they present the cutback number to the council. When presented with this cutback number, the town council proceeds to make more significant cuts to what the board states is the minimum. Our budget in 2010 was $62 million. If you adjust this to inflation over the past 14 years, this comes out to $91 million. Today, under an 8.68% increase from last year's Board of Education budget, we are asking for $82 million, which is $8.68 million less than it would be if simply adjusted for inflation. This council has historically given the Board of Education significantly less than they've asked for and needed as an increase, ranging from between 2% and 10% less than asked for, and today we're seeing the price. An 8.68% increase may seem unreasonable when looking at past Board of Education increases between 0 and 4%, but we only need an 8.68% increase today because we haven't received the proper increases in any past year since 2010. What we're asking for today shouldn't be unreasonable. To maintain the status quo in any industry, we need to keep up with inflation. Education shouldn't be included from maintaining its value under inflation. I would also like to address comments made by various members of the council. To those who believe children are being used as pawns, I am a child. Please let me tell you, we aren't. I chose to write the speech. I chose to look through historical budgets, doing hours of research, and make every aforementioned calculation, preparing for tonight's speech, and trying to find out why we're having problems now. Not a single adult in my life has seen or heard the speech before my presenting of it to the council tonight. Please let me remind you that many Enfield High School students will be eligible to vote when all of you come up for re-election, and we are smart enough to remember who screwed us over. We will remember the choices you make today. We hope you make the right one. Thank you, and good night.
My name is Keo Vizzini. I live at 105 South Road. And to clarify, because of last time's mistake in the written of what I had said, my name's spelled K-I-Y-O because it was written as student name unsure. Teachers are the building blocks of a better future. They are not just teachers to us, they are safe people for us. Getting rid of teachers just because they don't make tenure and because we don't have the budget we need is not a great idea. Getting rid of these teachers isn't going to solve anything, not only because we'll have less teachers, but kids who only come to school because they get to see these teachers may stop coming to school. As a student who sees so many of my teachers as parental figures, and knowing that most of them have gotten a pink slip purely because they don't have tenure, it is discouraging me from wanting to go to the school in Enfield because there's no stability. You claim that you are listening to us, but if you truly were, you would realize that denying us the budget we requested will only cause more harm to our community than good. I'm coming from the student's perspective as a student who has grown and has done so much better this year due to teachers that are here and teachers who couldn't make it here. I would like to let you know that the teachers that are pink slipped, that are in this room, have encouraged me to come out of my shell, have encouraged me to talk in front of people, which before then, I wouldn't even be able to come up here without crying. These teachers have made me so much better of a person, have taught me so much, and cutting them is only going to cause us harm. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Good evening to everyone. My name's Paul Fitzsimmons. I live at 12 Eileen Lane here in Enfield. I've lived in Enfield basically my entire life. I've lived on Pearl Street, on Broadleaf Lane, on Eileen Lane. I've seen this town from most corners. We've all lived through periods of fiscal difficulty before. I think the idea that the education department is at the forefront of the cuts that are being made is a very short-sighted and poor choice by the town. It hurts your property values, it hurts the reputation of the town, all things you know, right? What it also does is damages students. If you have a third and fourth grader who have a bad year and a terrible year the next year, when you reinstate that budget because times are fiscally better 2 years from now, they don't make up the 2 years they lost. They are continually behind. Education is not a place where you balance the books. I've worked for a very large state agency. I understand the position that you're in. I had a $780 million budget for a state agency that oversaw thousands of employees. I get it. I furloughed staff. I combined regions of offices across the state of Massachusetts. Pretty much everything that we've got to contemplate doing here, we've done. And what I can tell you is short-sighted, quick answers do not work. I'll be honest with you, when I hear things up here today like, I didn't read the audit, I'm appalled to hear anyone here that there's an audit that you haven't read and you want people to agree to another forensic outside audit when you don't know what the audit that's been done says. It's embarrassing, frankly. When you run for election, you run to get a job to serve the town. You run for the opportunity to serve the town. It isn't the end to say I won, I now get to make the decisions. That isn't it. It's to do the work together. Lose the titles of Democrats and Republicans, get in the room, do the work that you need to do to support the children you need to support. Those residents will vote you out of office in a few years if you don't. And I will be at the front of the line pushing it every step of the way. When I sat in a room with Deval Patrick and we talked about the administration and we talked about huge fiscal cuts, never once was the word Republican, which I was, and Democrat, that he was, ever come into the conversation. It is an embarrassment that this is what you rely on to pettily fight amongst each other to say I'm in charge. It's over. Do the job. You won? Great. I'm happy for you. Lead. I'm a Republican. I'm embarrassed now, frankly, a lot of times to be a Republican because the mantra that we seem to carry is about winning and less about doing, and we were always about doing. So for 65 years, that's been my mantra in every job I've ever had, and I expect it to be the mantra of the people that we elect. So thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Claire Lysecki, 62 Brainerd Road. This is a change of pace. I've come to ask for help with the problem and to ask for protection. I moved from Massachusetts in December 2018 and spent 2019 emptying my storage unit into my apartment. In December 2019, the smoke alarm battery check was made, and I was told about the need to have clear walkways for ambulance assistance. I complied, and in the review, I was passed for clear walkways. This year, the note was posted for the inspection to be done on Monday, May 13th at 9:45. I had dressed and breakfast by 9 a.m. I sat in the dining room to wait for the inspection. At 9:45, at 10:45, at 11:45, no one had come at all. I went to The mailboxes and the note was gone, so I reasoned that the inspection had been done. At the time, I took pictures of the living room and hallway to show to friends who had never visited. I asked some friends for advice about what to do, as I did not want to run around saying my inspection was not done and maybe get a worker in trouble and therefore his family in trouble. On Thursday following, I received a call from the apartment manager to say that they had received a letter from the fire department saying my apartment had been inspected and did not have a clear walkway from the bedroom door to the main door, and a review would be made later, and the apartment building would be given a fine, and the apartment manager intended to pass the fine on to me. I told her I had not done anything wrong, that no one had called, no one had rung the bell, and no one had entered the apartment. I had to tell her this 6 times. The apartment manager said she would call the city or fire department to get me more details and call me later that afternoon. She has never called me back. I called the on-site apartment manager because the office manager said she had the copy of the notice, and I asked her for a copy of the notice, and she said she could bring it over tomorrow. She never contacted me again. So my questions are, 1, no one came into my apartment at all that day, and the walkway was clear. So does that constitute falsification of records once or twice? Question 2, the fire departments are the first responders, the protectors of the citizens. If they are falsifying their records, who can I and other citizens in Enfield turn to for help to protect me and other citizens? If the fire department is saying that they went into the apartment when I was not there, are they asking the apartment manager to perjure themselves to say they let the fire department into the apartment? What payback does a fireman get or the fire department get from forcing me out of the apartment because I fear for the safety of my possessions and, more importantly, for my health and safety? 6, if one fireman is falsifying his reports, how many other city employees are falsifying records? Who would move into Enfield if it becomes known that city employees are falsifying records? What damage is being done to the city, and who will help and protect me?
Thank you. Sir.
Greg Sherns, 19 Sam Street. Good evening. So the evening is here where we make the decision about the budget. This night will serve as an inflection point for this town's future. As of right now, it seems that you've decided to give a lesser outcome to our students based on the numbers that we're seeing. Frankly, after the way some of you have spoke about our students, I'm not surprised by this. We've heard numerous complaints about special ed, as if those students don't deserve their services. As if it wasn't for those darn kids we clearly didn't spank enough, we'd be fine. I saw that members of this council simply wouldn't believe that students could come to their own conclusions that cutting the budget for their education would be bad. They accused us, the teachers, of trying to indoctrinate our students into paying attention to their own best interests. To the disbelievers, if I could indoctrinate students so easily, wouldn't our jobs be a lot easier? I'd argue that right now, we're actually seeing progress towards making Enfield schools a great place to send your kids. There are issues to be certain, but there are positive signs of growth. Recently, we were given some preliminary data on our SAT scores. Our average score went up significantly, while the state average dropped. That's a remarkable accomplishment. It comes from the tireless work of the teachers and staff trying to do more with less, and now it seems you'll be asking them to do more with far less. This is coming at a time where most of the news coming out of the schools is overwhelmingly positive. Our culinary program, our music program, auto program, and organizations like Buzz Robotics are absolutely killing it and representing us on the national and state stage. We stand to lose programs like this and successful electives like AP Physics, a class where the passing rates on the test go far and beyond the national or global average. We can juxtapose that to the news stories coming from outside the schools, like a council member saying that kids should be spanked, or firing off an email from Siri threatening a teacher's job. Then we see the problem. And look, I talk to my students all the time about living in Enfield because I live here and it's important for me to know where my students are coming from. These students feel like there is not a single place for them in this town. There's no community pool as far as I know. They don't really have any place to hang out. So instead of building them some kind of place or giving them some kind of space, we're instead going to cut the budget. Now, it seems like this whole board has no problem with asking the state for $20 million to help build something that might bring in money at some point. But we're not going to ask for less to make sure that we're making up for that in the BOE budget and making sure that these kids get the education that they deserve. I ask where the spirit of sacrifice we as Americans harbored and valued so much in generations gone by. The greatest generation fought the Nazis, came home, and built all of our infrastructure and the strongest middle class in history. They understood it's society's job to educate the future and make sacrifices to make sure that their children can afford home, food, and an education. In the decades since, we've gotten greedy and selfish. We have no goals as a country. We languish and rest on our laurels. So I'm asking all of us to dig down and see what we can sacrifice for the future of our country and our town, since these kids cannot vote. Someone paid for your education at some point. It doesn't matter if it was private or public. Somebody did, and it's our turn to return that favor. It's time to invest in people over property. Remember that those words, that property can be remodeled, torn down, rebuilt. People cannot. So let's build our students up rather than tearing them down. Thank you. Good night.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Ma'am?
Hello, I'm Chris Lang, 90 South Road, Enfield. I'm not going to speak long. I am so proud of the students and the teachers, and it's so criminal that they had to come out for some of us who don't have kids to know them because of you. I really am proud of them. I do hope that every one of them who gets to be of voting age does vote. I'm not going to say who they should vote for. I don't care right now. What I want to tell you is I am one of those senior taxpayers, okay? I'm one without kids, and I value a full budget, and yes, the extra money that comes out of my, what is it, a couple of cups of coffee in a week or a month? Come on. If you really want to worry about some seniors who can't afford an additional mill rate to take care of our kids and our students and our teachers, why don't you set up a senior fund? Get a little revolving loan thing going on, something. Get creative, but don't hurt our kids. I live in a house right now that I'd like very much to see a young family in, but I'd like to find a place to live in town too that's more appropriate when 10 years from now I get a little older and a little bit less able to get around. Is there a place for me? No. So you don't plan, you don't have a vision, you don't think about affordable housing for any of us. But I'm going to stand here and tell you right now, I am a senior taxpayer, and I'm proud to take care of the kids. You go ahead and give them that full budget. Thank you.
Lucian Lefebvre, 54 Kimberly Drive, also chairman of the Enfield Veterans Council. This is the time of year where we see on Facebook and all over the place, the question is out there, when is our parade? Nobody seems to remember. Well, a lot of people bring signs, have been bringing signs. I decided to bring mine with me tonight. This should clear it up. We've put these all over town. And we've made it generic, so it's always on a Sunday at 1 p.m. So this sign will be out there for both Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So as you're riding around town, you'll see the signs. We put them out this morning. I just want to cover a little bit about the parade. We're proud that the Enfield school system supports our parade. We have to do our national anthem, we have the Enfield High Honors Chamber Choir to do our national anthem. Then they're going to be singing America the Beautiful, and the Chamber Choir is going to be joined by the 3rd through 5th graders from Parkman School. The high school band, along with playing Marching Down Route 5 with the rest of us. I always refer to them as the pride of Enfield. The high school band will be playing all the service songs and God Bless America at the town green here. I encourage everybody to come to the town green at the end of the parade. I always say that's the meat and potatoes of our veterans' parades. We've also got Best Buddies from JFK that are choosing to march in our parade. And I hope they can convince the Best Buddies from Enfield High School to join them. I'm familiar with a group like that. I worked with Special Olympics for 10 years. Councilman Crisati can attest that it's a great program. I participated in unified sports with the athletes. So we look forward to having them out there. We also have as a guest speaker the Deputy Commissioner from the Connecticut VA. And finally, weather permitting and no maintenance issues, we're going to have 2 Chinook helicopters do a flyover, flying up Route 5. Talking to one of the pilots, he said they're going to drop in East Windsor and follow Route 5 up past the town hall. And proudly, one of the pilots in one of those aircraft is a 2012 graduate from Fermi High. So, one of our own. Also, the Connecticut National Guard is going to have a couple of vehicles, and we're going to have a marching contingent from the National Guard, which we haven't had in a while. And with a little work, we've got the monster truck from the Make-A-Wish program is going to be here. And I want to do a big thank you to Buildings and Grounds. If nobody's noticed, there's an additional flagpole out at our monument out there. With the establishment of Space Force, we had to take down one of the flags because we didn't have enough poles to put all our service flags on. Well, proudly I can say with the help of the town of Enfield and the Veterans Council in a joint venture, we got our flagpoles up and all branches of service are represented. So I look forward to seeing everybody on Sunday, May 26th. Parade steps off at 1 o'clock. And I was told the aircraft flyover is somewhere between 1 and 1:30 is their expected time. So look forward to having everybody out there. Look forward to seeing a crowd at the green for the wreath laying ceremony and the speeches, and listen to the high school perform their magic out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucian. Jen.
So I don't have anything prepared tonight, so I hope I remember everything. Jennifer Briette, 83 Park Ave. George Young isn't here tonight, but I know he has been asking for months, where are the town's audited financial statements from 2023? We seem to have money flowing in and out of accounts and nobody knows, or suddenly we have an explanation about $2.5 million. The BOE would not be audited on that yet because that was fiscal year 24, which is not over. However, they do have audited financials from 23, and we have not seen anything posted on the website. So before you guys go running out and paying for a forensic audit, how about we get the audit we've already paid for? Thank you.
Anyone else? Pam.
Pamela Pasha, 8 Weymouth Road. I just wanted to say I didn't come with anything prepared tonight at all either, but I thank the council for their time. And I just want to say that I think sometimes, just like in all of our separate households, we have to say no to things because it just can't be done. My family grew up in this town. My parents both grew up in this town. They raised their family, me and my sister. We went through the Enfield Public School System. I raised 3 kids, and they all went through the Enfield Public School System. And, you know, we couldn't always have what my parents wanted to give us. And it wasn't it wasn't because they didn't want to, it's because they couldn't. Because they needed to know when to say no, because it just wasn't feasible. My parents didn't look to anybody else to entertain us or to take care of us or to feed us. They took care of us. And their parents, the same thing. We're responsible for our own, and that's the way that it should be. And sometimes people have to take a hard line and say, it can't be done, and have to make tough decisions. And I respect whatever decision you make tonight, but we have to remember that we all have to make tough decisions that people don't always agree with. And that's just the way life is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pam. Anyone else? Ma'am.
Hello. Hi, I'm Angelina Vono. I live on 21 North Maple. I actually grew up in Suffield, but a lot of my family was in Enfield. You may know my family from Frankie's Firehouse Restaurant. Yes, that was my grandfather and my dad. Many of my aunts and uncles lived in this town. My cousins went to these schools. I only moved here as of 2020. Enfield has been part of my life for a long time, regardless of me not growing up here. But I also recognize that I don't have children. I don't plan on having children. There's a lot of people who have had children, and they pass through the school system. And they don't think they have to pay their way anymore to the school because they have done what they have needed to do to that extent. Again, I don't have children, but I recognize that funding a school, funding the school system for your town, for your citizenry, is important and consequential and has bearing and effects on the future. And with that, whatever decisions you choose to make today, know they will have echoes now and into the future. And I hope those echoes, they sit with you and you actually feel good about them and those decisions you end up making. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? For the first time. Donna.
Donna Dubanowski, 23 Betty Road. Didn't plan on speaking, but we listened to the Board of Ed come up here and give their explanation, and we've asked you guys to do the hard job, which is to make sure that our taxes don't go up. Now, if people in town can afford more taxes, feel free to write a check to the Enfield town. They will take it, I'm sure. John Wilcox will be happy to deposit it. I cannot afford any more taxes, and I appreciate the fact that you guys have worked extremely hard. I went to all the budget meetings, and I watched the cuts you were making. You're not cutting the Board of Ed by drastic amounts you're actually giving them. You can laugh, but I sat through the meetings. None of you do. You come to this meeting, you come to a couple of meetings, and
Sorry,
you get...
Donna, hold on. If we have one more outburst, I'll clear the room. When you guys all applauded for when people spoke, I didn't say anything. Show respect to the people who don't agree with you like they showed you. Thank you.
I watched you
Donna.
guys work very hard. And the Board of Ed is going to be fully funded, as it has been for every year I've lived here, and I've lived here all my life. They have never been, even when the state shorted them $5 million, the Board of Ed was still made whole. So they will be made whole. You teachers are here one time a year to come during the budget time. Well, how about you come and you volunteer like these 11 guys do, and women, because they come up here every week, and they volunteer their time, and it takes a lot of time. And guess what? It's not an easy job, and I don't see anyone who's out there complaining volunteering. So maybe try to step up and help the town that way, because these 11 are doing their job. They are supposed to be the fiscal, responsible people to put this town in the black, not in the red. We will find out why the Board of Ed, it happened. But it's going to be funded, so stop with the dramatic, oh, teachers are going to be fired, this and that. If these students are so socially scared, then their teachers should be telling them how positive town of Enfield is, not negative. Let's try that for once. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Hi, Kelsey McGuire Bruce, 63 Neylands Road, Enfield. I actually did not plan to speak tonight, but I have to come up after that because I'm going to say that there are teachers either at these meetings or watching online every single night, whether people believe it or not. Also, I want to talk about the volunteering. Personally, I'm a director of Enfield 4th of July celebration, as well as the Jack-o'-lantern Festival. Do not sit here and tell me that we do not volunteer our time outside of school constantly. We show up to sporting events. We show up on the weekends. Do not say we do not volunteer our time. We are watching. We are here. So don't say we're not. And I'm just going to leave you with one quote because, like I said, didn't plan to speak tonight. Education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving your community and world better than you found it. I want all of you to ask yourself, are you leaving our community better than you found it tonight?
Thank you, Kelsey. Anyone else for the first time? Second time? Sir.
Sorry, just a couple of quick things. First, an apology. When I came up the first time, I was frustrated, and that spilled out. And that, we use the word decorum. That's absolutely not how I wanted to send that message. I don't apologize for the message. The tone was a little loud, so I apologize for that. I think a couple of things I just wanted to add on real quickly. I have two daughters that are principals. I understand, one here in Enfield and one in Simsbury. I understand how difficult the education field can be. They spend hours dealing with some of those very difficult and challenging students that we're talking about, as well as supporting those who are just a pleasure to be around every minute of every day. But if you raise the size of classrooms, the unintended consequences are going to be drastic for the town. 25 to 30 kids in a classroom, that can't be maintained now because administrators are literally doing holds of children in hallways. Those behavioral issues are going to escalate exponentially in classrooms. The lawsuits that you will then get from parents who say their needs in their child's IEP are not being met, and when they file the lawsuit against the town, and they win, and they will, it will cost the town then. There's a number of ways. The world is different. I understand the sentence about let's get back to before COVID, let's go back, let's start over. Unfortunately, we can't. The world is a different place. Here in every facet of what we do, staffing, hiring, retention of staff, it's all changed. Kids' dynamics at home with their parents and stay-at-home parents that spend more time at home. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes it's raised dysfunction for kids and families, and they're even more lit when they get through that school door in the morning. Everything has changed. We need to acclimate ourselves to a new world that these schools are facing every single day. Cutting their budget is not going to work. And I understand the dynamic of we're not really cutting it, we're just not giving them a bigger increase. The costs continue to rise. Those 65 positions, for instance, that weren't teachers, I would venture to guess when you have that conversation, you're going to find out the vast majority of them are aides that are working in special ed, that are doing pupil assistance, so that teachers can teach. Right, that's my hunch. You will find out. But thank you, and I don't envy you the job. It's very difficult. So one last thing, wants versus needs. When I've had to make big budget cuts in the end, that's what it came down to. Whiteboards on the wall that said, is this a want or is it a need? Education is a need. A newly paved road is a want, right? What's a want? What's a need? Drill right down through every line. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to comment on how, as a student, I can see the work which teachers put into the job. Do not say that teachers don't volunteer their time, when the time that they're on the clock is a small fraction of the time they're working. Teachers grade papers, they prep lesson plans, they show up to events to support their students. They respond to emails outside of work hours. Before you say that teachers don't volunteer their time, I ask you to take a step back and look at what they're really doing. Might be more than you think, especially where, in the staffing shortage that we're in, the prep period is often spent covering classes. If you take a step back and see what they're really doing, it might be more than you think.
Thank you.
I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. As a student who has multiple teachers who work and volunteer for the school, I would like to say that saying that we don't have teachers that are working outside of school and aren't doing stuff outside of the school for the school, that's just purely not true. We have, as I would like to say, Miss Oppenheimer, who's back there. She was doing volunteering for our GSA. She was doing all of our donations. We had a whole group of donations for that too. We have Buzz Robotics. We have our music department doing Red Robins, all these other donation things just to keep us, the students, afloat in our activities and just purely in our school. So saying that they don't do stuff, that's purely not true.
Thank you.
Hello, Micah Burnside, 27 Litchfield Drive. I just wanted to say that I wasn't confused by what the woman a few people ago said. about teachers volunteering. And what I heard, in order to interpret that, I would like to offer my assistance, okay? So I was going to save it for an email for the town manager and for the mayor, but I'd rather just do it this way. So, like I told you at the last meeting, I've taught myself pretty much everything I know, even though I went to school like everybody else, but I had to teach myself all the cool stuff that I know how to do. Not going to brag. But what I can do is software development. And one problem that we have in Enfield is that in order to pay our sewer taxes, we have to walk in with a check or pay in cash. I don't quite understand that. But what I do know is the company that we send our payments to, or the town sends the payments to up in Lewiston, Maine, they can pay their sewer taxes online. So I don't understand why we can't do that. The company that we send our money to has that right, or the freedom to do that. We should too. So here's what I'm offering. As far as what people could be doing to volunteer, I think what she meant was, how can we lower the tax burden for the town on our own? And so what I'd like to say is, as a software engineer, I'd like to offer my services to start some type of open source program that we could use to build into our town website to offer a payment gateway and actually provide a solution at no cost to the town, which would probably cost you $100,000 minimum to do it right. So I would like to offer that assistance. I can help put it together, and we can probably even utilize people from the Buzz Robotics team that have programming, or any other town residents that are software developers. So I just want to throw that in your court, and have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Vinny Pager, 32 Glendale Road. If my teachers, I really appreciate all that they do, and I don't think we should fire them because they help me a lot, especially if like my day is going really bad, and if like even if like and like they're just there to support me for like all I like do. So thank you.
Anyone else? Jen?
So Jennifer Briette, 83 Park Ave. I don't think we need a translator for someone to tell us what it's meant when you're told you don't volunteer because you're not the 11 people in front of us. Many of us volunteer in ways that you may not see. I'm on a board and a commission here in town. I'm also on the board of a nonprofit agency. There's a number of ways that I volunteer. I am sure these teachers are putting in countless hours that they are not paid. But I will bet that their volunteer activities have not cost the coffers of Enfield $1.6 million in taxpayer money by reducing assessments. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm closing public communications, and we'll move on to councilman communications. So we'll start at one end and just work through. Councilman Santinella. Councilman Sakala.
Okay. First, thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. I'm going to make my comments regarding the budget now, so we don't have to interrupt the voting later. I'm going to be limiting my comments tonight to the Board of Education piece and the Board of Education budget. Ironically, you heard earlier today when our former chair and our chair was here, we need to make the Board of Education whole. You guys remember hearing that? Yes, yes we do. I was so excited to hear that. Everything that was discussed earlier has to do with this year. not the budget we're about to pass. That was about this year. So I have a senior, goes to Enfield High School, and I have a sophomore that goes to Enfield High School. Both of my kids have spent their entire education in the Enfield Public Schools. And I want to read you this. I want you to listen. K through 5, 3 through 5 chess club, K through 5 band, K through 2 reading help, JFK track and field, JFK softball, JFK drama, JFK National Honor Society, JFK Chess Club, on to Enfield High School. Enfield High School Culinary 1, Culinary 2, Photography, Teen Leadership 1, Teen Leadership 2, Drawing, Creative Writing, Ceramics, AP Gov, Enfield High School Chess Club, Enfield High School Field Hockey, Softball, Baseball, French Honor Society, Automotive, Forensics, AP US History, Interior Design, AP Environmental Science, Marketing, and AP Language and Composition. For those of you who are visual learners, this is the list. 29 programs, classes, and activities that just my 2 kids have taken advantage of in the Enfield Public School system. And that doesn't include the second half of 11th grade and senior high of my younger child. Can you imagine the district-wide impact? Those are just my 2 kids. So you know what? This is personal. This vote is personal. Even that doesn't even touch or address all of the programs or the possibilities of cuts. For example, having to go back to 7 period days in high school instead of the 4 period A and B day. 7 periods a day for high schoolers does nothing to help them prepare for any secondary education or higher education that they may want to go to. The Board of Education has unknown costs that aren't fixed, fluid, if you will. One of the biggest ones we've heard, special education. For example, did you know that the Enfield Public School was lucky enough to welcome 78 special education students this year after they passed their budget? That's a cost of about $1.8 million. And that was only this year, this current budget year, along with the fact that they didn't get their Alliance funding. So knowing the shortfalls that the Board of Education can run into, why in the world does it make sense to cut them for next year? It doesn't. Ask yourself, why doesn't the town properly fund education? Isn't it important enough? Doesn't the town think that funding education will have an adverse impact on the town, the population, and do the opposite of what we want, which is attract new residents and businesses? The superintendent, Board of Education chair, and the Board of Education as a whole have asked for 8.6% increase. Why in the world would the town think that we're more qualified to make the decision on what they need? If parents decide to now send their children to another school like a magnet or a CREC school, did you know that Enfield Public Schools can pay up to 100% of that tuition, of that placement cost? And you know it's going to happen after this budget happens, after this budget passes. And what about the unemployment costs that we're going to have to pay? What are we doing? I've asked myself these same questions. We, my Democratic caucus, have been very clear, and we are very clear in our deliberations that we support the Enfield Public Schools and the budget that they asked for, and we support fully funding that budget. Yes, we want to have a fiscally responsible budget, but guess what? This is not that. This is the opposite of being fiscally responsible. It's irresponsible, and it's a disservice to our residents and our students. So for that, I will not be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Crissati.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna shift. There's a few things that I want to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about my part of the budget, and I'm going to be focusing in on the capital improvement plan. But before I do that, this council was invited to the Enfield High School, first of all, the spring concert, and then the Enfield High School Chorus and Orchestra. I attended both of those. I first want to state that in the spring band concert, under the direction of Ashley Schell, once again, part of this concert was a unified sound where special needs students get paired with a member of the Enfield High School band to perform. Now, they've been recognized with the state of Connecticut. This program, once again, I have to commend Mark Rapucci, who is the K through 12 music coordinator, and the teachers that are involved with this and the students that are involved with this program. It's absolutely outstanding. I know myself and Councilor Santinella sat through this concert and we were pretty moved with it. Second one I attended was the Chorus and Orchestra. Close to 200 students are involved in this program. Now, this is just the music program. This is very, very important, and we've heard throughout the weeks the importance of the arts in Enfield. Once again, the orchestra director was so excited after the final performance. He was moving and giving accolades that he got so excited he fell off the stage. He didn't hurt himself, but he fell off the stage. Luckily, I was right there. I ran over to him to make sure he didn't bang his head or hurt his back or whatever. But that's the excitement that you see, not only with the teachers and the people that are directing this, but the students that are involved. So, once again, to everybody that's involved with those programs and the teachers, kudos to all of you. The other thing that I want to mention is the second annual Unified Volleyball Tournament that was held at Enfield High School. They had the firefighters, DPW union workers, Enfield High School, JFK, their unified teams, unified cheerleaders, the Allied Stars. Local 1029 made a generous donation for unified for uniforms for the programs. And you want to talk about a community event. It was a great one. But not many people were in attendance. Maybe next year, some of us will take an opportunity to take 10 minutes out of your day to attend. Lastly, I want to wish Mr. Drezek the best in his new position in Old Saybrook. It was a pleasure to work with him and closely work with him over the past several years, and especially when I was the mayor. Best wishes to him and his family, and thank you for everything that you've done in Enfield with education. Now I'm going to get into the capital improvement plan. First of all, I'm just going to state that it's very hard to negotiate when you have to negotiate with a 0% increase. And that's the frustrating part. A 0% increase. I'm just going to let you know right off the bat, I am in total favor of the town manager's budget that was presented. That is a fair and equitable budget. The proposed fiscal year 25 capital improvement plan was cut drastically during the budget deliberations. The Enfield Public Schools gymnasium resurfacing at all the schools was cut $40,000. Miscellaneous school supplies, parts and equipment for school buildings, $75,000 cut. Safety hazard issues with Crandall rear sidewalk replacement, $75,000. It was also stated, why do we have to have sidewalks? Just dig them up. We don't need them. Town and property, miscellaneous town facilities, parts and equipment for town buildings and facilities, another $75,000 cut. Town parks and fields, miscellaneous sports field upgrades, parts and equipment, which are needed, $75,000. Alcorn replacement of the playground surfacing, $150,000. Gym floor replacement for youth services over at Alcorn. The floor is a safety concern. Warped and loose boards, $75,000. Library over at the Rotary Playground. The playground surfacing, $300,000 cut. Selective concrete work for DPW. Safety hazards, $25,000 cut. The EMS emergency backup generator, $40,000 cut. This is at EMS again. DPW equipment, scrubbers and batteries chargers need replacement due to aging equipment, just like our schools, aging. Enfield Police Department, 10 cruisers, $750,000. Well, we first went from 17 to 10 to 5, now it's 0. It was also discussed to keep facilities use policy as is. And we're going to be charging all groups. And then there's also talk on the table that all groups are going to have to be charged for fields now. So as we cut the budget, you're going to notice that fees are going to start getting jacked up on everybody. Air conditioning at the annex needs to be fixed for $50,000. Nobody wants to correct the issue. There's no money set aside for school modernization. After all the talks and the works and the monies that was spent on to make some school improvements. Work has been halted. Any work that needs to be done in our schools is going to cost you, the taxpayer, more money in the long run. Look, see, it's going to happen. In this budget, we have not put any money away for roads, and the only plan that we're going to be having is we're going to fire up another referendum for tens of millions of dollars to continue road maintenance. We're big on that roads referendum. Well, beware of it. Again, we should be dealing with governance and not politics. The politics here is a 0% increase. That's what they ran on. That's what this is what we're dealing with. This is what they want. How can you negotiate with a 0%? You can't. I think this budget is irresponsible. It's unrealistic. And more importantly, I'm in total support of the town manager's budget that was presented to us, a little over 5% increase as a total. Our nonprofits, our seniors, our social services, the Board of Ed budget, public safety, you name it. Why? For a 0%. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. I don't even know where to start. I have served on this council, not this council, but the Enfield Town Council, over 20 years, and never in my whole time volunteering as a council person have I experienced this non-negotiating ability or desire. What we have here is not only fiscally irresponsible, but we're looking at two draconian budgets, the Board of Ed budget and the town side. As far as the Board of Ed, all I really want to stress is that I do not support the fact that they're not going to honor what the board is looking for, number one. And to also shed a little bit of a light on the fact that when you take away the teaching staff, you're taking away the teacher's ability to have the support system, to have the paras, to have the academic tutors, to have in place those individuals that can assist teachers when they have students that have mental health issues or other types of physical needs. So we're really doing a severe disservice to our school system by removing that element, that support system. And again, as Councilman Crissati pointed out, we should be leaving our political differences, opinions at the door. Once you get elected, you get sworn in, and your oath is to serve the betterment of the people of the town of Enfield, not your own personal needs, not your party needs, not the zero budget, because you can't progress if you don't invest. So that's my piece on the board. When we start looking at the town, we've taken, so many things away. Non-town agencies, the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, $32,000 gone. Why? Just to reduce the budget? That particular agency helped for many years bring Enfield into the light when we needed information, when there's something happening in the state and the general surrounding states, we would be able to get that information. Now, without membership, we don't get it. You look at social services, nonprofits. You got the network against domestic abuse. They reduced it by $3,000. Resources for children, another $3,000. Food shelf, $3,000. All of these important arms to help the town. Kite, that's been reduced, almost $3,000. So, where does it stop? Just because you want a 0% budget, it really makes no sense. So at this point, I'm just not going to vote to support either budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. John?
Thank you very much. It's been difficult this week to have to try to explain to parents how we got here. Fathers and mothers calling upset about what's going on in the schools with their kids. And the simple answer to that is, the only answer that I think I have for them is that because last November we had an election and people didn't come out and voted. And we treat our elections around here like we're voting on homecoming queen. We don't vet anybody. We don't ask people about their experience. We don't have any sense of whether or not people can actually govern. And we certainly don't ask people about what their vision is for Enfield. And it's very disheartening to be in this place at this time to see this budget that is so backwards and so out of touch with the direction that people in this community seem to want to see Enfield go. We've taken zeros long enough. It's been 14 years of zeros. You can't run anything that way. To pretend that there's no inflation, that there's no cost of increase in costs, it's just not reality. And at the same time, nobody wants to talk about our debt. Nobody wants to talk about the $103 million of debt that we haven't even put a dent in. Who's going to pay that? Is it going to go away? It's not. Somebody's got to pay it. And somebody is going to pay dearly for the decisions that we are making here tonight. You can't say that you care about kids and not fund education. You can't say you care about seniors and cut their services. You can't say that you care about the police and cut their budget. I mean, the police budget is as upsetting to me as the school budget. They've cut everything. Training for post recertification, active shooter training, high voltage certification, even veterinary expenses for the dogs. Removing critical pieces of equipment that protect officers when there's somebody barricaded in their houses, cut ammunition, traffic safety enforcement. For all the people that come in here concerned about people speeding down their roads, no more traffic equipment coming. And the maintenance for that stuff, that's gone too. Flares for our officers, new recruit uniforms, radar sets. The list just goes on and on and on. I mean, you look at this list and you say, is this budget making our town safer? I'll tell you what, go ask the police officers. You can't say you back the blue and then put together a budget like this. It's incredibly infuriating. And then the last thing that I just want to mention, we had a good meeting in here the other night with a developer who wants to come and redo the mall that's been also sitting there for 20 years. And we're going to go to the state of Connecticut and we're going to ask them to give us $20 million and invest $20 million in Enfield to help us redevelop the mall. Can I tell you something? You don't need to be a genius of a business person to look at that situation and say, you want me to send you $20 million when you can't even fund your school system and you can't pay for your police officers? I'm sorry. The message, the vision, the perception that people have of this community, it's so contrary to the town that I grew up in and the place that I love to call home. And I can't help but think what my parents and my grandparents would think if they were looking at this right now and say, they worked their butts off in factories and at the phone company. My mom served meals at the high school cafeteria. That's what she did for a living. And they did not chintz on anything when it came to education. Our lives, we were not people of means by any stretch. But when it came to schools, there was no question about it. This is not the town that they wanted to leave behind. And that bothers me more than anything. This is not the Enfield that my grandparents would have wanted us to see have. Things are tough. I know that. I don't know that. Because, if you go to the country diner at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, you can't find a parking spot. All these people that can't afford to do anything. We're not shuttering doors in town. Does this feel like we are going bankrupt? We're not. We're just not willing to pay to move the town forward. That's the difference. It's not can we. It's about our willingness to do it. And that's what this budget says. We are not willing to do what it takes to move Enfield forward. And so I will be voting no on all of these amendments because I support the budget that the town manager put forward, and anything less than that is insufficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nasuda? Councilman Finger?
Thank you, Mayor. Through the mayor to the town manager, I got a couple of things, please. One is the annex bleachers over by the tennis courts. I think they got destroyed again, and I think that's where they were at. If we can look into it, please, because they're all. I have a picture. If you want, I can send you a picture tomorrow. How's that? Yes, please. All right, no problem. I was very. From all the bad things that were happening, not bad things, but things that are going down with the Board of Education, I've never gotten a mermaid grant before. This is phenomenal. I've never got this before, and this is from a teacher at JFK expressing her opinions, and I want to thank her. And I can't read her last name, but it says, I think it's Kate Fothrow. Fothrow? Is that what it is? Thank you, Bob. Thank you. I want to thank you very much for sending me this. And everybody else who sent me regular emails and not those robotic, stupid things that were put out. Abbey Road, looking good. That catch basin, they put another catch basin on Bush Drive. Now you just got to finish putting the curbing back in and it'll be fine. I watched the rainstorm last time. It worked really good. Thank you very much for getting that done. Residents really do appreciate it. That was their tax dollars at work. The one thing I want to bring up is Memorial Day week coming up. Your yard waste and your trash will be delayed by 1 day. It is not on Monday because there's no work on Monday. So your Monday one will now be Tuesday, and just work it down. There'll be no yard waste picked up on that Friday, but the following Saturday, that Saturday, the 1st, there will be yard waste pickup. And wanted to make sure that everybody knew about that. So since other people are talking about the budget, I guess I'm going to do the same thing so that way we can get right to the vote. One is I want to apologize for not being here as much as I could because of the deliberations. I did have a family emergency. I had to take care of my family, which comes first before anybody. I missed out on a lot of things. I came back, I got myself caught up by watching videos of the council meetings and deliberations and the Board of Education meetings. Those are a lot of fun to watch sometimes too. And I just want to thank Tina and Charlotte for showing up tonight and going in front of a crowd. That was tough, and I really respect you both for doing that. Thank you so much. I've had people email me. I had the president of the Teachers Association, if she still is, I think it's Emily, is still the president, and emailed me and asked me about what I'm doing on my vote. And I told her the same thing I told the other people. Back when I ran, back in August, September, and October, when I knocked on over 300 doors in District 3, I made a promise. I promised to help try to keep taxes down because of that ridiculous $3 million increase we got just after our evaluation that the Democrats put on the last time. That was ridiculous. People got hurt. That was my promise. I made a promise to the people who elected me in this seat right here. I'm keeping that promise. You may not like it, but I'm a man of my word when it comes to things like this. And that's who I am. Now, as far as the Board of Education budget, and people keep talking about hurting the kids and the teachers, how about looking at it a different way? How about starting from the top? Leave the kids alone, leave the teachers alone, start from the top, and start working your way down and get rid of those, a lot of people who are repeated. You got 5 deans at JFK. Why do you need 5 deans? I don't understand this stuff. You teachers need to be respected, and it's always taken out on the teachers and the kids. It's not our fault. Not our fault. Start thinking about what's going to happen with your budget. Again, my opinion to you is you start looking at above. Why nobody talks about them, having them make sacrifices? Because they don't. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Finger. Councilman Ongire.
Greetings. There's only a few things I want to say. A normal budget would likely reflect a reasonable inflationary escalation. 0% does not mean $0. We have to be fiscally responsible. There's so much that we are getting. I'm seeing a focus on what we're not getting. There's so much that we have going on here in Enfield. We have wonderful staff, teachers, everyone here at the town hall. There's so much that we are getting, but we have to be fiscally responsible. Even with the police cars. I don't know if everyone knows the oldest car is a 2022. It's not so old. I do support taking money from the fund balance to pay for the pump stations. They're in dire need. And I believe we should support the contractual obligations for our teachers. There's been times where they've missed steps that they certainly earned and worked hard for, and missed raises that they certainly should have gotten. So I believe in meeting those obligations, but we can't spend what we don't have. Just like in our homes, we have to plan and budget. There's a lot of things I'd like to do, but if I can't afford it, I don't do it. So we need to apply the same principle here. but I support our teachers and our town.
Thank you. Councilman Hendrickson.
All right, first I want to get this out of the way because I do forget it quite often. I want to thank the staff, all the department directors. This was a lot of work getting this budget, and we asked for a lot. I respect every one of them, and I know it was a hard work and it's a hard cut. I understand that. When I decided to run, I knocked on every door in my district, and the two things I heard were, please no tax increase, and get the civility and the politics out of up here. Again, I'm going to stay away from all of it. I did hear it tonight again, so I'm going to keep to the positive stuff. So a zero budget increase is a positive to a lot of people. I'm not thinking of it as a negative whatsoever. And tightening your belt and going through departments and figuring out how we can do things better in this town is a good thing. So that's the way I choose to look at this. You can look at it the other way. I always try to look at the glass as half full. Every time we have a meeting, our town manager comes in with great news about the mall or other things happening in Thompsonville. We have housing going in all over town. Win Stanley building, LL Bean going into the mall. I just want to focus on the good things of this town. So we tighten our belts. And first time up here, I would love to do capital improvements. The pump stations, we've been talking about it since November. That came off the table because we had another expense to go out. That's the way it happens in my house. Something comes up, you got to move something, you have to tighten your belt. That's what we're asking. This is going to be a tough year. I get it. Hopefully, revenues go up and we can make some adjustments to the budget in January, whatever happens. But I will be in favor of this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hendrickson. Councilman Ludwig.
Yeah, I agree with Councilman Hendrickson. I'm not going to try to play politics, but I just want to make sure I talk about numbers. So again, as the chairwoman of the Board of Education laid out earlier, they were starting to see they weren't getting certain funding. So last year, right around this time, it was pointed out by certain members of the council that, again, the $1.4 million did come through in state funding. It actually came through in one allocation. It didn't come, the initial was going to come in two separate, one allocation, the minus 1.4 ECS to the town, and then the 1.4 supposedly in another account. We did get the full amount. It's been verified by our state reps, by both Republican and Democrat. And so at that time, and then if we knew at that time that the state or the board wasn't going to get its $1.7 million for what they applied for the grant to take, that they covered the expense that the town initially had allocated for. Well, again, if folks are telling you tonight how we had about $3.1 million we could have moved last year, but we did not make, there was no resolution. We never discussed it. In fact, the deputy mayor brought it up and was chastised for it. Mentioned it was clear what the state allocation was, and that's fine. Look, again, we can disagree, and that's okay, but let's just be clear. There's things that have happened, and that, again, I'm not trying to play politics here. I try to put a budget that I can afford, that I think the town can afford, and you have to make tough cuts. And I agree with a lot of the individuals who spoke. It's not easy. I'd love to be able to give. I don't question people's motives. I don't question the project itself. I know every project's well-meaning. I have to figure out, can we afford it, and how do we get the most bang for the buck? So I look at it a little differently than everybody else. I'm not trying to put one project against another or one program against another. I know whoever benefits from that specific program, it's valuable to them, and I understand that. But I also understand that, again, we have to take everything in totality and aggregate, and it's not easy. And so we tried to cut across the board. We cut about $3 million out of the CIP roughly to help, because we wanted to make sure we had some money in our rainy day fund, knowing inflation is what it is, over 20%. I mean, these are things that affects everyone's budget when they go to the grocery store, when they pay the utility bills. So, I mean, these are things we're trying to take into account. And again, I think, look, these are tough cuts, but again, I think if we cover the 3.9 this year, and we would have about $2 million in the board budget plus taking over the guards, it's roughly $8 million or so.
No, 8.4%.
8.4%, excuse me, I'm sorry, 8.4%. So again, we're doing it over a couple of years, and sometimes when you do budget, you got to deal with it, whatever's in front of you at that time. And you certainly do try to plan, and everyone plans a budget. But I mean, sometimes you have to hand the cards that you're dealt and you deal with them. And people can disagree, and that's fair. I'm okay with people disagreeing. But I think, again, I'm not trying to pit one program against another. I'm simply trying to do what I think is affordable for the town of Enfield. And unfortunately, we've had to make some really tough cuts across the board. I'm not trying to play politics. I'm just trying to, manage what I think is, again, a fiscally responsible way, which is what I've always done. And again, as we move forward, hopefully we can, again, sometimes when you do make cuts, and like we did back in 2017, when we actually absorbed the $5 million cut for the board, which we absorbed it, the town cut across the board, and we found efficiencies. We found things we could do better. We found things we didn't need. Needs versus wants. So sometimes you find some things when you're not looking because you're forced to. And that's what happened a few years ago when we kept the board whole. And then we were able to then put the referendum out for JFK, which passed. We showed our fiscal responsibility. Then it passed. We're trying to do the same thing here as we look to do modernization. We know we have to fix the elementary schools. So we're trying to balance all the wants and needs over a multi-year period, not just looking exactly, okay, this is what I'm doing today. We're trying to keep things in for the future and understanding there are other, I care about debt, I can tell you that right now. I talk about it all the time. I'm worried about, we've worried for years about keeping our bond rating solid so we do get low interest rates, so we're not getting a high debt, high debt ratio to town. So we think about that, we talk about that in general governance all the time. And so those things are important. There's a lot of moving parts. We're trying to manage it. And again, we can agree to disagree. That's fair. And but again, I'm not trying to pit one program against another. I'm just trying to make cuts that I feel is across the board. But I feel, again, affordability is important to me. And I think it's important to many people in this town as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Pisner.
So I have a different idea of what fiscal responsibility is. I think to be fiscally responsible, you don't spend money that you don't have. So I look at this town budget very much like I look at my own household budget. Last year I screamed from the mountaintops about the 1.4 million, and I questioned the year before, and I was told, you don't have a clue, be quiet, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, if maybe somebody had listened, we wouldn't be in this situation. But that's then, and this is now. And as much as people say a tax increase wouldn't hurt the residents of this town, everyone I speak to tells me it will. The last 2 years, we had the highest tax increase that this town has ever seen, and we still need more. We have 28% inflation at the grocery store. That doesn't include your utilities. That doesn't include the gas you're putting in your car. Everyone is affected by what's happening in our economy. Every single resident, taxpayer, student, teacher, everyone. And we take everybody into consideration. Yes, we asked the town manager to make cuts, and I thank him and all the department heads and all the staff. And I honestly don't think the chief would cut things from the safety that he really thought were detrimental. I don't. I think he gave cuts honestly. We all look at our budgets at home and say, what can we do without? Maybe it's cutting cable. Maybe it's cutting HBO. Maybe it's going down a cell phone. We're always out there looking. That's what we did this year. We took a deep look at this budget and said, what can we go without? Because you know what? We are funding the education in this town. And between funding them this year and giving them their $3.9 million and picking up the contractual for the teachers, which I feel very strongly about doing, by doing that and taking from the fund balance to get some of the CIP, then our rainy day fund is down to $18 million, and we have to have $15 million in it. So now we have $3 million of play money here. That's not a lot of money to run this town. So people keep saying, just go to the bank account. Go to the bank account. What bank account? My mother used to tell me when I would ask my mom, Mom, can I have that? She'd take me to the window and she'd say, look outside. Do you see the money tree growing? Well, when you see the money tree, then you can have it. This is the same thing. This is a tight year. And we went across the board. It wasn't like we said, okay, we're just going to cut education, or no, we're just going to cut safety. everybody across the board gave us a cut. And we are looking at some really good businesses coming to our town. So you know what? I'm hoping next year that we're going to sit here and this budget's going to look totally different, and we're going to be able to give everybody what they need. But right now, I am going to stay with this budget, and I am going to do a zero. Because the last 2 years, our residents were hit hard. And it's time that we ask everybody to just take a deep breath and move forward and just do what we have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Nasuda.
Thank you. First off, before I get into that part of it, I just want to thank Lucian for all the work that he does on the Memorial Day Parade and Veterans Day Parade. You put a lot of time and effort into it, so thank you. When I like Councilman Hendrickson, am new up here, newly elected, and I knew this was probably the toughest part of sitting up here, budget time. And I will tell you, it is the hardest time sitting up here, making cuts, listening to people, figuring out what to do. And I just thankful I have the knowledge of the other councilmen to work with me and work hard on this budget to get it where it needed to be, because I did the same thing when I went out, knocked on doors, and what the people told me, I listened to them, and that's the way I'm going to be voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. So, for starters, we moved the budget meetings to live on TV so the residents could actually see exactly what goes on and the transparency. I've asked in emails, and I also asked on the floor on TV for ideas and their idea of what a budget should look like and how it should be funded. And the answer was, and it was on TV, they're not giving them. They don't have to. Well, that's one of the advantages of being in the minority. I've served in the minority twice now. And you could say whatever you want. There's no ramifications for it. As Councilman Ludwig said, between the $3.9 million the Board of Ed is short this year that we were handed, we knew about this in December. So this was through the election. How would that have been addressed if we didn't win the majority? I don't know. But $3.9 million is a lot of money. The 2% we're giving to fund the contractual obligations to the teachers union, because this council last year agreed to that. And then the guards, that's 8.4% that we are funding of taxpayer dollars tonight. Yes, it falls in 2 different years, but that's not our fault. That's the fault of the previous administration that ran this town. We did run on a 0 tax increase because the 16% the residents got hit in the last 2 years, that didn't go away. It's still there this year. And we can't live within those parameters. We've got to go up again. Well, to fund all the great things that they want to fund and we want to fund, because my goal, believe it or not, was pump stations to make sure your toilets flush. Not Powder Hollow Park, which I didn't hear anybody offer up. There's $1.2 million. Not the $300,000 at Brainerd Park for baseball lights. Nobody offered that up either. But they didn't say anything about that, and we didn't cut it. It's still in the budget. It's moving forward. Okay, so we all made sacrifices. Well, most of us made sacrifices. So you know, a particular council member keeps saying, people didn't come out and vote. They didn't come out and vote. Well, that's a good thing, because they only won by 10 votes, and that was absentee ballots. So if the people came out and voted like he really wanted, maybe he wouldn't be sitting here right now. And you know what? The people spoke, and they put us in charge because of things that happened over the last 2 years. We're trying to clean up the mess. We apologize we can't move forward. Road referendums, that's been going on since 2000. That's how we replace our roads in this town. It's nothing new. Nothing's changed. We didn't cut roads. It's just not up for a road referendum every 5 years. Next year, we'll be doing it again. So to say this is easy to do when you're not held accountable, but a lot of it is not true. I wish I could fund every single thing that was asked for in this budget, and then some. We need $30 million in pump stations. We have a $15 million force main that runs up Route 5. If we were to fund all those projects, we could have the best education in the world in Enfield. People couldn't afford to live here because the taxes would triple what they are right now. The number one thing people look for is an affordable town. You could have the best education in the world. If you can't afford to live in the town, what good is it? And so there's a balance that has to be kept to keep the residents to live within a town, to fund a good education. And history has proven throwing money at a problem doesn't fix it. Buying the most expensive thing on the market doesn't always mean it's the best. So maybe, yes, maybe now we're going to be forced to take a couple steps backwards and look at this as a whole and start over. And yes, we can go back before COVID and start, and that's a good starting point. We funded the teachers, every single one of them. We funded their raises, okay? So this council supports our teachers. And the raises, or the money we just agreed to, the $3.9 million we just agreed to, guarantees their paychecks for the rest of the year. A simple thank you would have been nice, okay? Laugh all you want. It's the truth. You laugh because we agreed to the money. But what if we didn't agree to the money? Do you realize the Board of Ed members could lose their houses? They're personally responsible for this money. And that's a state law. So we're working together with the board. So I'm asking everybody to work with us to get through this, and let's move the town forward, because we all want more for Enfield, but it takes baby steps. Right now, we took 10 steps backwards. So hopefully we can start moving forward. We've already discussed, the water calm down, and in January, we're gonna readdress the police department and the cruisers. But we need to see exactly where we are now, because the rainy day fund, we got $3 million extra in it right now because of those cuts we made in CIP, just to make sure if one of those pump stations does go down, we have the money to fix it so you can flush your toilet. I don't like this budget any more than they do, but this is the best solution for the situation we've been put in, so I will be supporting this budget. Thank you.
I have no report this evening. Thank you.
Town attorney's report, please.
Mine will be very brief. First of all, I had an occasion today at our office where our security system malfunctioned, and the security provider called, and I said, well, I finally fixed it, and so the alarm is off, so you can cancel the police. And they said, okay, we'll cancel them. I then heard somebody knocking on the door, and it was the Enfield Police, 2 cruisers front and back, 4 officers, and they were there within a minute and a half. So I told them I was thrilled that they were there, and I appreciate them being there in the police. And I said, gee, I thought the security company would call and let you know it was a malfunction. It's been changed, and the lady, I believe her name was Bonnie. I should have got the badge number, but she very politely said, well, we come anyway because we don't know whether there really is an emergency or not, but we're here for you. And so I appreciate that as a shout out to the Enfield Police Department. Anyway, secondly, the Siting Council held a hearing last week on the solar panel application on Town Farm Road, and the applicant went forward. There was a cross-examination by the Siting Council. Our lawyer, Jeff Merman, cross-examined to a point. Then that part of the hearing got continued to June 4th, where it will be resumed with Jeff doing his cross-examination, and then the town will have a couple of witnesses and put in some evidence on its behalf. The only other thing is what happened tonight with regard to the MOU. I would appreciate it if you would, each of you, send me an email and copy the town manager as to what you think is in the MOU, just so that way there's no confusion and I don't leave anything out. So if you you have a thought on what it encompassed tonight, that's wonderful. I'd like to have it. Don't assume that I am a mind reader. Okay, so thank you very much. I don't have anything else unless somebody has a question. No. Thank you.
Moving on to reports of special committees of the council. Seeing none. You're good, Lori? Do you have one?
No, I just wanted to say something.
Okay. You sure?
I just wanted to say something on a lighter note. Lucian, thank you, and Pam for all that you do. And this is the first that I heard we're going to have a flyover with a Chinook. I've been in many helicopters. Any chance you could get me a ride along in that?
Just to be clear, you're asking as a resident and not a council member.
I'm asking as a resident.
Thank you. All right. All set, Lori? Yes. Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business, the Abbey Road sidewalks. It was tabled from 5/6/24. Councilman Finger.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to make a motion to put this back on the agenda. Maybe get a resolution about it because this has been going on long enough.
Second.
Again, so that's what I want to do. I want to get it back on to have the sidewalks removed.
Right. Well,
Resolution
it's
stated.
on the agenda, so it's just, what do you want the resolution?
I want the resolution to state that the town will be removing the sidewalks. And
all the new sidewalks that were part of
yeah,
the
all the
Abbey-
new sidewalks that were put in right by Abbey Wood up towards Taft.
And that's
I can get numbers for that too, the house numbers.
Okay.
Should have had them with me. I apologize.
Are you all set, Doug?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. So the problem with the Abbey Road sidewalks is it's not the sidewalks themselves, it's the way it was done through the town. When this town has put sidewalks in other areas of town that they didn't exist, we had public hearings. We let the people come out and speak their minds. There were certain residents on Abbey Road that absolutely did not want the sidewalks in front of their house. And a certain member of the town at that time promised them that the town of Enfield would shovel them indefinitely, which is 100% against the charter and against the law to do in this town. So what I think Councilman Finger is leading to, and this is where I stand, is if those residents were not given that false advice, they might have been able to take this to court and either delayed it or completely stopped it from happening. But because they were given false advice, they gave up that right to challenge through the legal system, which in America people have a right to do. So it's not the sidewalks that I'm against. I'm against the way the people were misled when these sidewalks were put in. So there is no resolution tonight on this. So I'm looking for a consensus to put a resolution together for next meeting that says the town of Enfield will be removing these sidewalks. And then at that point, I've told the residents that are upset about this, If we cannot come up with some sort of an agreement to where these sidewalks will be maintained by maybe a neighboring community, then I would support removing them. So this gives them another 2 weeks to rethink and maybe renegotiate a resolve to this before we actually have to rip the sidewalks out, because that's, to be honest with you, it's an embarrassment to have to do it. It was the whole procedure, the whole way it was done is an embarrassment for the town. So if we have consensus on that.
We can prepare that, and as you are aware, the town attorney issued an opinion, and we can reissue that. It was also given, I believe, in hand to all of the neighbors, so they were aware of what occurred. It basically follows what you indicated, Mr. Mayor, but for everybody's edification, we will redistribute it, so it's very clear as to what occurred and how those sidewalks came to being. So I'll have the town attorney reissue it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Consensus? John?
So we had talked about the possibility of holding a public hearing on the removal of the sidewalks, so that, in fact, we're doing the reverse. And before we go ahead and remove them, I thought we had talked about that as a possibility. Is that no longer a possibility, to let residents of the area come in and discuss whether or not they want the sidewalks there or not?
You can add that, but that doesn't address the issue of how they got there.
I understand that, but the public, so if we have a public hearing about the removal of them and the public comes out and wants them kept, does that not negate the fact that they were there, even though it is in the public's interest and they're coming and asking us to keep them?
Well, did the people have their public hearing who got the sidewalks in the first place?
I get it.
And that's the problem.
We talked about that as a possibility.
Right.
If that's off the table, I'm only asking if it's off the table.
We're doing consensus right now. What do you guys think of that?
But sorry, Mr. Mayor, I want to clarify, if I could just through you to the town attorney. So if we have a public hearing about the removal of the sidewalks, does that negate the concern that there wasn't a public hearing when we put the sidewalks in?
Off the top of my head, I would say no. Mainly because you've already now put sidewalks in without a public hearing. I don't believe that to close the barn door after the horses are gone it would be effective. But that's subject to my looking it up.
Okay, so I guess the question is the only option to remove the sidewalks, period, if there's no other public hearing option, to keep them with the public's input? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, that'd be a council decision, actually, in terms of, any options you may wish to consider. Okay. I can only tell you whether or not it's legal.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
All set?
Yep.
Yeah.
Bob?
Yeah, I have a few questions. First of all, you're questioning, once again, was things done correctly? Were they not done correctly? Do we have a cost of what this removal of the sidewalks? And I want an exact, not an approximate. I'd like to have a quote to see what it's going to cost the taxpayers now to remove these sidewalks. And to my knowledge, we're going to appease one person that doesn't want these, or two people. But, and you're saying that they weren't notified. Construction was stopped. They were notified. For safety reasons, those sidewalks were put in. For safety reasons, those sidewalks were put in. We didn't have to come to the council to ask for more money. The monies were there. The monies were there. We didn't know how aggressive the construction company was in putting those sidewalks in. We all had agreed in that DPW meeting that those sidewalks were needed to go in there, period. We didn't know how fast that they were going to go. And then once that construction stopped, we heard from the neighbors. Construction was stopped. They were all notified of what was going to take place. So I'm a little confused as to why it had to come in front of the council when sidewalks are already done on Abbey Road. So are we going to come back and revisit with this grant that we're going to be getting for the sidewalks on Abbey Road now? So residents are going to come after we dig out these sidewalks, they're going to come and say, oh, we're going to be getting all this funds for the sidewalks on Abbey Road. Now, let's put them back in. I'm a little confused. We're going to take them in, we're going to take them out. Okay? So, all right,
He has
so,
the floor.
you know, but I would like to get how much it's going to cost. All right? I mean, we can go back and forth. You got the votes to dig them up. I think it's foolish, absolutely foolish. You're going to be using taxpayers' money now to dig them up to appease probably one person. So I'm done. I'll talk more about it once we get the resolution.
Councilman Ludwig.
So I want to be clear on all this because it should have come from the council. This was, again, there's two projects on Abbey Road. The sidewalks that are going from Town Farm Road to Broadbrook, that's part of a separate allocation in the Roads 2021 program. This is not that program. This is the overlay of Abbey Road going towards the other direction, towards Broadbrook. I guess that would be east, I believe, Broadbrook East. The project was for roads, not for sidewalks. We had two meetings at the DPW subcommittee. We said at the first meeting, which Councilor Santinella, myself, and Councilor Crisai are there, and we didn't want to do it. It was around 40 grand to 80 grand was the estimate at the time. And because, again, it was out of the scope of the project that the voters approved. It wasn't for sidewalks down there. I mean, go look at the referendum. I'm not making this up. It's public information. And we said no. It came back next meeting, you know, with Councilor Crisati, another councilor there, and myself. And we said, look, if there's money left over in the project, we would consider it. But it's a council decision to make that. It's not a subcommittee decision. It's a council decision. And so then someone took and ran with it and started sidewalks the next day. So that's what happened. This is clear. I'm not against sidewalks, but again, we have sidewalks all over town we're trying to find money for. And they're beautiful sidewalks. Did a great job. I completely understand. If you go out there, they're beautiful. But regardless of the public hearing, the person who made the decision didn't have the authority to do it. That's the simple fact. So, you know, the ends, I guess if the ends justify the means, then so be it. But I'm okay with having a public hearing on this. I want this out in public so people can understand exactly what happened. And we should be transparent with what went on. And the subcommittee did not agree to start it next day. We said we would look at it if there was money left over, and it's a council decision, not a subcommittee. And I have the floor, and that's exactly what was discussed. And so this other this is we actually did it two meetings, not just one, but two. So I want to be clear on that. And I'm for a public hearing, John. I agree. Councilor Santinella, I agree. And I want to make sure I want to show the respect. So I agree. So. I agree. Look, I hate wasting taxpayer money, but for me, the ends don't justify the means, and we need to have that looked at. And the folks who do have the sidewalks on their lawn, they're upset about it. And let's see if there is another solution. Maybe it will present itself. Maybe, but I'm okay having a public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, if I might interject, I know we have other important business people are waiting for. I think we can fully discuss it at the next meeting. The town attorney has given a very detailed background of what occurred there. We can share it again so that everybody's aware of it, and you can make your decision at that time. I just think you should have all the information, have the opinion with the emails and the background and how it occurred. and then I think the public will be informed as to what your next decision will be. But without that in front of us tonight, and you have other important business, I would just ask that we put it back on the table. We'll have the resolution prepared, and the town attorney will be prepared to address all the questions that evening. And I will just say, in regard to a public hearing, two wrongs don't make a right, but I think it's very easy, whether it's a formal public hearing or not, we could set it 10 minutes to 7, and if interested parties want to come, let them come and have their input one way or the other, so you hear from them. They don't have to wait to public communication, or they could do it then. But I know this council has been pretty open to listening to folks and setting the record straight, so why don't we wait and defer it to the first meeting in June and have all the information for you then?
Well, I'm just going to say a couple things, because this is the first time I've heard you say, Bob, that this didn't have to come to the council, that subcommittees have zero authority to make a decision on anything without it coming to the town council. So much so that I'm ready to get rid of the subcommittees because the people can't see what is discussed in those meetings. With the only subcommittees that should be meeting in private are the ones that deal with security or personnel issues. As far as the rest of them, no decisions are made in subcommittee meetings. And you just said this subcommittee made a decision and it didn't have to come to the council. That is absolutely wrong. And as far as the contractor, I'm tired of people blaming this contractor. He is a phenomenal contractor and he does a ton of work in this town. And now we're going to say, well, he jumped a gun and he got him in. He was told to do them. And now we're going to yell because he did what he was told to do? That's absurd. And I'm sick of it. And, maybe this is why people don't want to work in this town. Stuff like that's got to stop. I think the company that did this job did a phenomenal job on that road. And I want to thank them for that and apologize for the past comments. Now we can move on to the next issue. Thank you.
Well,
we're moving on, Bob.
No, before we move on, I totally disagree, and I will talk to you later about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're wrong. You're a little out of line, too.
Okay.
You are.
Thank
You're
you.
Absolutely out of line, and I'm getting a little
thank
fed up
you.
with your music.
We moved on.
All right? Enough's enough.
Really? New business, the consent agenda, there is none. So we're going to move on to appointments. The Enfield Cultural Arts Commission, the term of Nazima Hutchinson's has expired on 6/1/24. The reappointment will be until 6/1/26. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of Nazima Hutchinson's? Opposed?
We're closing
Oh,
nominations.
yeah. Motion to close nominations?
Already made.
Right. All in favor? Yes. All right. Now, all in favor of Nazima Hutchinson's?
Hutchinson. Now I'm saying it wrong.
It's all in favor? Okay. Thank you. A resolution setting the public hearing for the 2024 Neighborhood Assistance Act. The Neighborhood Assistance Act, NAA, is a state program which allows nonprofit organizations and government agencies to solicit private sector enterprises for donations to support specific community service projects. In return, those businesses can claim a state business tax credit. In order for a specific community service project to be eligible for the state business tax credit, an application must first be submitted from the sponsoring organization to the Enfield Town Council for approval. Council-sanctioned applications are subsequently forwarded to the State Department of Revenue for a final approval. Budget impact, there is no budget impact, and the recommendation is the Town Council approve the following resolution. Be it resolved, the Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Monday, June 3rd, 2024, at 6:50 p.m. to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinion regarding the 2024 Neighborhood Assistance Act proposals. Date prepared 5/14/2024, prepared by the Office of Economic and Community Development.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any questions? This is just standard every year. Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
4.
And Counselor Ungary.
4.
11 members in favor, none against.
Thank you. This next one is an introduction of the main motion. Resolved that page 4, General Fund Revenue Summary, and page 8, Summary of Expenditures by Function of the Town Budget as submitted by the Town Manager and the estimates for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025, including estimates of receipts and expenditures and recommendations of said Town of Enfield. 4. Water Pollution Control, pages 74, 76 through 81. Social Services Funds, pages 84 through 88 and 90 through 109. Department of Library Funds, pages 112 and 114 through 123. Insurance Fund, pages 126 and 127 through 131. Information Technology Fund, pages 134 and 136 through 141. Animal Control Fund, pages 144, 145, and 146. Emergency Medical Services, pages 148 and 150 through 153. And Capital Improvement Funds, pages 156 through 158. Be accepted and approved along with the amendments specified on this attached schedule by the Town Council of the Town of Enfield. Date prepared 5/16/2024, prepared by Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All right. Do we go through our amendments first? Because we need to amend it.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So we're going to go through the amendments now, and we're going to start. Am I correct? I'm correct, right, Sheila? We need to amend this before we can vote on it?
I'm going to defer to the town attorney because it was my opinion, the way it was written, it said the attached schedule of amendments, and it can be all adopted by this resolution, but I'll defer to the town attorney.
Right, that's the way I read it. That's why I asked you that. Because normally we would read them off, but the way this is written, so
I concur.
you concur.
You don't need to read them off all individually.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Questions, comments, and concerns about this motion on the floor? Councilman Ludwig.
Just for the record, there are 29 amendments. Just want to make sure folks know there are 29 amendments that will be a part of this motion, just for the record. Thank you.
And then if we could also put on the town website, Chris, the amendments along with this so that people can actually see what the amendments are. I believe they're in the budget.
Yes,
or
but
they're in
we'll
the
make sure they're
agenda.
separated out. Your action this evening is posted.
Right, okay, thank you. So, seeing no more questions, roll call, please.
Counselor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Crisati.
Against.
Counselor Finger.
4.
Counselor Hendrickson.
4.
Counselor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
Against.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
4.
Counselor Santinella.
Against.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
7 members in favor, 4 against, no abstentions.
Okay, thank you. Now we're moving on to a resolution to adopt the capital improvement plan. Resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Enfield hereby finds and determines that each capital project for the 2024-25 fiscal year indicated as a series or a specific capital expenditure in the capital improvement annual budget shall constitute a single appropriation of funds for said series of expenditures. Date prepared 5/16/2024, prepared by the Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Crisati.
Against.
Counselor Finger.
For.
Counselor Hendrickson.
For.
Counselor Ludwig.
For.
Counselor Mangini.
Against.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
For.
Counselor Santinella.
Against.
And Counselor Ungary.
For.
7 members in favor, 4 against, no abstentions.
Thank you. Moving on, this is a resolution to adopt the LoCIP. Resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Enfield does hereby appropriate LoCIP grant funds in the amount of $308,000 for the following purpose in accordance with the 2024-2025 annual operating and capital budget. Roads 2021 paving projects, $308,000. Date prepared 5/16/24, prepared by the Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions? And this just funds the roads project for, right, okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Santinella. Counselor Sakala.
Against.
I'm sorry, Counselor Sakala, could you repeat that?
Against.
Against, thank you. Counselor Crisati.
Against.
Counselor Finger.
For.
Counselor Hendrickson.
For.
Counselor Ludwig. Counselor Mangini.
Against.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
For.
Counselor Santinella.
Against.
And Counselor Ungary.
For.
7 members in favor, 4 against, no abstentions.
This next resolution is to adopt the education block grant. Resolved that the town schools budget adopted by the town council in the amount of $77,929,555 included the anticipated revenue of $29,823,645 from the Education Block Cost Sharing, ECS, grant and Special Education Grant. Date prepared 5/16/2024, prepared by Finance and the Town Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? So this resolution pretty much says, we gave the $77,929,000 with the anticipated revenue of $29,823 to reimburse us. It doesn't, if we get more, it doesn't say we raise them. If we get less, it doesn't say we cut them. So we're committing the $77 million regardless. Roll call, please.
Counselor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Crisati.
Against.
Counselor Finger.
For.
Counselor Hendrickson.
For.
Counselor Ludwig.
For.
Counselor Mangini.
Against.
Counselor Nasuda.
4.
Mayor Nelson.
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
For.
Counselor Santinella.
Against.
And Counselor Ungary.
For.
7 members in favor, 4 against, no abstentions.
This next one is a resolution to adopt setting the tax rate. Resolved that the tax rate of 30.56 mils be set on the real estate and business personal property grand list of October 1st, 2023 for the town of Enfield and shall be payable in 2 semi-annual installments, July 1st, 2024 and January 1st, 2025. And be it further resolved that the tax rate of 29.21 mils set on the motor vehicle grand list of October 1st, 2023, and shall be paid in full on July 1st of 2024. And be it further resolved, however, that real estate and personal property taxes amount to $100 or less shall be paid in full on July 1st, 2024. And be it further resolved that any motor vehicle, real estate, or business personal property taxes in the amount of $5 or less shall be waived pursuant to Connecticut State Statute 12-144C. Date prepared 5/16/24, prepared by Finance and Town Manager.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? Roll call, please.
Counselor Sikala?
Against.
Counselor Crisati?
Against.
Counselor Finger?
4.
Counselor Hendrickson?
4.
Counselor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Mangini?
Against.
Counselor Nasuda?
4.
Mayor Nelson?
4.
Deputy Mayor Pisner?
4.
Counselor Santinella?
Against.
And Counselor Ungary?
4.
7 members in favor, 4 against, no abstentions.
Okay, moving on. Do we have any items for discussion tonight? Seeing none. Did you put your hand up?
No, I
Oh,
was
sorry.
doing this.
Any other business proper to come before said meeting? Seeing none. Public communications. Would anybody like to come up and speak to the council? Seeing none. Councilman communications. Councilman Mangini.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments here. Saturday, we had the opportunity and the privilege of having UConn come out and celebrate with Rotary Day of Service, along with others such as Joe Courtney came. And I need to give a great big shout out to Brandon from our town manager's office, who was very instrumental in pulling all the people together and, making this a very pleasant day. And hopefully going forward, we'll have a nice garden. I also was contacted by a resident this May, the month of May. This person is asking to be recognized. Oh, you have a proclamation?
I have the proclamation, but she wasn't here, so I didn't read it.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
okay, thank you.
She gave me one too. I asked for it, but she's not here.
Oh, boy. ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. So this is a proclamation recognizing May as Amyotrophic Lateral Sclerosis Awareness Month. Whereas amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, known by many as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive fatal neurodegenerative disease in which a person's brain loses connection with the muscles, slowly taking away their ability to walk, talk, eat, eventually breathe, and whereas every 90 minutes someone is diagnosed with ALS and someone passes away from ALS, and whereas on average patients diagnosed with ALS will only survive 2 to 5 years from the time of diagnosis, and whereas ALS has no cure, and whereas the people who have served in the military are more likely to develop ALS and die from this disease than those with no history of military service. And whereas securing access to new therapies, durable medical equipment, and communication technologies is of vital importance to people living with ALS. And whereas clinical trials play a pivotal role in evaluating new treatments, enhancing quality of life, and fostering assistive technologies for those living with ALS. And whereas we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Ice Bucket Challenge through a renewed commitment to galvanize public awareness and support funding leading to significant investments in ALS research, and whereas the ALS Association, as the largest philanthropic funder of ALS research globally, has committed over $154 million to support more than 550 projects across the United States and 18 other countries. And whereas our commitment to accelerating the pace of discovery remains unwavering, fueled by the hope that one day ALS will be a livable disease for everyone, everywhere, until we can cure it. And whereas ALS Awareness Month increases the public's awareness of people with ALS, their dire circumstances, and acknowledges the terrible impact this disease has, not only on the person, but on his or her family and the community, and recognizes the research being done to eradicate this disease. Now, therefore, I, Ken Nelson, Jr., Mayor of the Town of Enfield, on behalf of the Town Council, the Town Administration, and the entire community, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as ALS Awareness Month. I call upon citizens of Enfield to join in supporting ALS research, advocating for increased funding, and standing in solidarity with those affected by this relentless disease. And it is signed by Ken Nelson Jr., Mayor, dated May 20th, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Real quick.
Yep, Councilman Ludwig.
Through the mayor to the town attorney and assist town manager, can we thank Alex and the ETV team for having the room available for the meeting. Can we have it on June 4th? Is that, whatever the timing is, because I know that's a little key date for us, if we could reserve the Skidco room for citizens.
June 4th?
Again, thank you. He was there all night. We appreciate it. Yeah, it starts at 2 on the 4th. If we could reserve and open up. Yeah, please, yeah, perfect. But again, thank you to Alex for allowing, for being there. Yep.
So bringing that up, how did it go? How'd the public hearing go for the solar? Can we talk about it? I mean,
I'll defer to our town attorney. Yeah.
I was there and I watched.
Well, we haven't even presented our side yet. We're not done with cross-examination, so you can talk about it, but I suggest it not be here.
okay.
Thanks.
All right, beautiful. All right, Deputy Mayor Pisner.
So I too was over at the senior center for the new gardens, and they are going to be looking for help, volunteers Tuesdays and Saturdays. And you can actually go on, it's called Civic Champ. You can do a whole day, a half an hour. I mean, I went over on Saturday, I cleaned out a shed. I only had about an hour. So I went out and I cleaned the shed so that the Home Depot people could go in and get it ready. And then I spent the rest of the day with Lucian and Pam. I was flagging the cemetery with the Girl Scouts. And it was the first time I'd ever done that, and what a great experience. So you have a new volunteer from now on. I will be there in November again. So, and again, anybody who would like to do that, they need more volunteers. So thank you all who came out tonight, and have a nice week.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.